your discretion. Roll call. Board Member Aliano.
Here.
Board Member Insua is not with us this evening. Board Member Palmer.
Here.
Board Member Simonian has just arrived. And Chairman Yu.
Here.
Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on July 16, 2009. Oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Do you have any oral communication parts? We have none this evening. Okay. Which brings us straight to the review calendar. There are no staff announcements. And so I'll turn the meeting over to Chairperson Yu.
Thank you, Lily. Welcome to Design Review Board 1. If you can't hear us because of the fan, please let us know if it becomes a battle. But we really appreciate the fan, so if you could just help us out. We'll try to get through the projects pretty quickly today. It's a little warm in here, and I understand. Thank you for being here.
Mike's on, huh?
The mic's okay?
Yeah, okay.
Let's proceed to Case A, 1-PDR-2009-022-A. Mr. Joe.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. The next case before you is located at 777 Patterson Avenue, located in the R1 low-density residential zone. This project is exempt from CEQA. This is the first time submittal for the board's review. This case had been continued from the June 25th hearing date due to posting issues. The project description is to construct a 328 square foot first floor addition to an existing one-story single-family home. The existing property is approximately 6,980 square feet on a corner lot located on the corner of Estelle and Patterson Avenue. Currently, the site is developed with an existing 1,519 square foot single-family home that's one story in height, with an existing 604 square foot detached garage. On to site planning. Overall, the addition will match well with the existing one-story home in its location, configuration, and massing. The project will maintain the prevailing uniform front and street side setbacks of the neighborhood. And although the floor area will slightly exceed the neighborhood average, the massing will be consistent with the neighborhood pattern. Mass and scale, the addition will maintain a one-story configuration with a height of 21 feet 8 inches. Overall, the proposed addition will be appropriate for the chosen style and consistent with the massing of other homes in the neighborhood. Onto architectural style. The addition proposes to continue the prevalent characteristics of the existing home. Design features will be retained, such as a pitched roof on the addition with stucco and asphalt shingles. The roof pitch of the addition will match the existing and maintain a roof form's continuity. However, staff recommends for the clipped gable roof style to be implemented to complement the roof style that's throughout the existing home. The house currently has white vinyl slider windows with two-dimension interior muntins, which were previously permitted with building permits, and is proposed with windows to match on the addition with these vinyl sliders with interior two-dimensional grids. But however, overall, the proposed project appears to complement the existing single-family residence and to be harmonious with the neighborhood. Staff's recommendation recommends for final project approval with the following conditions. The applicant should consider window material greater quality, such as fiberglass. Windows should employ exterior muntins. Condition number 2, the roof design on the addition shall match the clipped gable roofs on the existing home to maintain the consistency. This concludes staff's presentation. The applicant and the homeowner are in the audience, and I'll be available for further questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Sure. Okay. I have one card for this project. Raul Lopez. If you could please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Raul Lopez, R-A-U-L, last name L-O-P-E-Z. On behalf of Project 77 Patterson Avenue.
Okay. Is there something you wanted to say?
Basically, we're trying to comply with all the requirements that the city are asking for this project, and we're more than happy to comply with the requirements, and we would like to the board to approve us the project, even though it's been almost 9 to 10 months process that we've been working on this project, and we would like to have the board to review the project that we would like to do. The little addition is 308, I think, and we would love to have a approval
Okay.
if possible.
Do we have any questions for? Would you be the applicant
I had a question.
or
Applicant.
Applicant.
Yes.
Okay.
I had a question. On the design of the extension, is there a reason why the gable was not clipped like the existing?
You're talking about the one in the front?
Yeah,
Whichever.
This thing is to here. See how this is done like that? Is there a reason why you chose not to do that? Or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Basically, what we're doing on the addition, we're just trying to continue the roof all the way out to the just to continue the same type of roof to maintain the same style. But
Right.
if you guys recommend a different style, we shouldn't have a problem to comply with the requirements, or anything that you guys would like to add. It's fine with us. But basically, we're trying to just make and work with the existing style.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? On the north elevation, or the south elevation, the upper one,
Okay.
there's one attic vent that's up at the left, right, on the new
Yes.
portion,
Yes.
and there's none on the existing on the front side.
Because basically that's where the addition is going to be, the 308 square foot addition. But if you like us to do more vents across, we're more than happy to do that.
Okay, but on the north elevation, there's two existing ones.
Okay.
No, I'm asking you. It's not a okay or
I don't know. I don't remember.
okay. So the ones that are shown there, we don't know if it's there or not.
The ones that are showing, they're there. But
Yeah,
on
so
the
they are
front, we're only adding one.
Right, but I'm talking about the north elevation, the second one on the left side. On the existing portion, it's shown two, and then it looks like you're adding one.
Right.
Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but if you like me to add more on the front, I have no.
But is that the number that calcs out for your even intake and out?
Right.
Yes. Okay. All right.
I have a question. Are you maintaining that hedge that you have across, down the side and across the front?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the only card that I have for this project. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this project? You okay? Okay. Then we'll close the session, and Mr. Aliano, if you could get us started on this one.
Sure. I think this is a very modest addition. I think they've done a really nice job in trying to keep the building sort of as consistent as possible with the existing. The only thing that I would suggest is that we can go ahead and have that gable clipped just like the other side, so that it matches. It really would actually help from the street because it will be less prominent. And my understanding is there's no work being done to the garage, right? You're just okay. Everything stays because even the garage has a little cable that's clipped like that. And then in terms of the windows, it's not clear to me if the windows are being replaced or matching existing, because it looks like you have vinyl windows there, right? So you're going to put the same kind of windows, same style?
I'm sorry, we can't talk back and forth. He's just
yeah,
talking out.
that's okay. I'm just talking
We'll bring
out
you
loud.
up if we have questions. I'm sorry.
Okay. But it's my fault. I should not direct the question. Okay.
But actually, it looks like on the window schedule, It's showing the existing ones around the house as aluminum frame.
Oh, really? I can't
And the
read
only
this
new
one.
ones are the A and B, which are the vinyl.
Yeah, I think that will concern me, because I think you need to match, if you judge from these pictures, they look like vinyl, but maybe they're not.
No, they were. Well, when I looked at it from the curb, they looked like white vinyl.
Yeah.
But I was kind of
Because here,
Across the street
they
looking.
see it as, they show it as aluminum, so maybe this is an older version or something, I don't.
or maybe there's just a few aluminum.
But what I would say then, that way we don't have to
Then let's
debate
tell
it.
them, yeah, what
Just to
we-
match what's already on the house. Whatever's on the house, you need to match. Style and
What if it's the old
quality.
aluminum windows?
Well, I mean, it's not hurting anything. I think they already have that there. Otherwise, we have to make them replace windows, which I don't know. They look fine. I just want to make sure we're not putting, because the vinyls might have a thinner profile.
If I may,
Guys,
Go ahead.
these guys look,
if I may just to chime in a little bit here, the existing vinyl windows, the building department does, records do indicate that they did obtain the proper permits for these vinyl windows.
Is it throughout the house, the whole?
Correct.
so they are vinyl.
These
though.
are not right then, the plans?
The drawing shows aluminum.
On the lower left on A2, there's a schedule, there's a window schedule. And they show them all as aluminum framed.
Correct. The window schedule is incorrect.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there a record on when that was permitted? Yeah,
I don't have that as of right now, but I can get the permit record.
It's not that important. I just wanted to know, because it's kind of a missed opportunity, when you had the chance to replace the windows. I wouldn't have picked vinyl, and I wouldn't have picked sliders, because the house, in terms of the style, probably warrants more like a casement window rather than a slider, but it's a little too late. So I'm okay, as long as you match what's there in style and type, I'll be all right.
I just got the schedule.
I'm sorry, we can't cross-communicate on here, but if you have any questions, maybe you could talk to Mr. Joe quick.
Actually, I'm assuming the chimney is staying, right? I don't want to ask, because it looks like the chimney's gone.
No, I think it's going.
Huh?
I think it's going, I don't see it showing up.
Yeah, there's no more chimney.
Yeah, chimney should be going because this plane
Right.
is moving out.
Okay, I'm not sure that it hurts anything. But okay, those are my comments. I will support the project.
Okay. Mr. Simonia.
I could support the project as well. It's a modest addition, as Mr. Aliano pointed out. The only thing I noticed was on that existing facade next to the fireplace, there's 3 windows, and you're replacing it with 4. That doesn't make a big difference. There's some taller trees along the property line there at the corner anyways. They might have been cypresses or something, so this thing is far behind it, and it's kind of difficult to see the home anyways. So I would support the project as is, with white vinyl windows being proposed on the addition. I think clipping the roof is a good idea. And is there other conditions that staff was recommending besides that? I think that's it. So
just
I could support the
windows.
project with the white vinyl for the addition and clipping the roof.
Okay.
I agree with the other commissioners. I think it's a modest addition, and I totally agree with clipping the gable on that. Match everything else.
Okay. Thank you. I want to commend you in the exhibits that you provide us. I think they're very clear and to the point and precise. And so I agree with everyone. I think it's well done. It's just an extension of that side of it. But I think the clipping will sort of tie everything back together and sort of give it an end to it, that house. I'm not too crazy about the single sort of, because it is a piece that sort of just kind of says, I'm a design piece, here I am. It's not very subtle in a sense, and so to have just one in the new edition kind of bothers me a little bit. I would say either take it out or put another one to balance it out, just like you have on the other side. I don't know what you guys think about that, but Okay. So, do we have a motion on this one?
I move for approval.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a second by Palmer. Okay, I have a motion by Board Member Aliano and a second by Board Member Palmer to approve this project with staff's recommendations to the applicant should consider windows of greater quality such as fiberglass and windows that should employ exterior muntins as a consideration. And condition number 2, the roof design on the addition shall match the clip gable roofs on the existing home to maintain consistency.
I think Mr. Loomis wanted to over.
Mr. Chairman, at the very end of your discussion, you had said there was another comment that you had thrown in that seemed the other board members had agreed. We didn't quite catch that. I want to make sure that...
I think they were okay with either way on that one, so I would just put it in, not as maybe as a consideration or something.
But that was a consideration to do what? I'm
For
sorry.
The single attic vent. That's
Okay, regarding the vents.
So.
If I could modify condition number 1 about considering window materials, but you would have a mandatory condition that the windows should match all throughout the house, existing and new, whatever they are.
Yeah. But I do agree with your comment about the vent. I mean, if you should either have one here or put one on the other side.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
I would also support that.
Should I read the comments again? Conditions that the applicant should match the windows on the addition to match the existing home. The condition number 2, the roof design on the addition shall match the clip gable roof on the existing home to maintain the consistency. And condition number 3, a single attic vent, I believe on the north elevation, is that correct?
South elevation.
South elevation shall be implemented.
Or another one to balance it out. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I think it needs to.
Yeah, either that or take it out. Probably better served with 3. So.
Well, because it's sitting on the other side.
Yeah.
For the record, do you mind reading over the site planning, mass and scale, and building design in detail?
Sure.
Could I,
Site planning, overall, the addition will match well the existing home on its location, configuration. Although the floor area will slightly exceed the neighborhood average, the massing will be consistent with the prevailing neighborhood pattern. Mass and scale, although the home will be slightly larger than the average of the immediate neighborhood, the building mass is adequately addressed, and the result is a building that does not appear overly massive as a result of the increase in size. The proposed massing is appropriate for the chosen style and consistent with the massing of other homes in the neighborhood. And building design details as conditioned, the proposed addition and fenestration reconfiguration appears to retain the style of the existing home and will relate well with the surrounding neighborhood. As noted, the qualities of materials can be improved, which I can take out.
Yes, condition.
So we have
before you call for motion, for a vote, could I add a clarification on the vents? The vent requirement is if you eliminate it, that's fine, but if you decide to add another one, or if they decide to add another one, I would encourage that they center the vents on the closest window below it. In other words, be on the same axis as the window, kind of like I've done here.
the center one should be balanced. Is that what you're saying, Board Member?
If they decide to add another one, if they don't eliminate it, then they should add another one. That's the option. But the vents should align with something. They should be centered on the windows below.
Can we go with the same motion, or do we have to?
It would be as amended. It would be as amended by Board Member Aliano if Board Member Palmer so moves the second.
Second that.
Okay, so I could do the vote. Okay. So this would be roll call. Board Member Aliano,
Yes.
Board Member Palmer,
Yes.
Board Member Simonian,
Yes.
Chairperson Yu.
Yes.
So that's a 4-0 vote with one board member in Sua absent for approval with conditions.
Next project be on the agenda 1-PDR-2009-030-A, 3250 Pontiac Street. And Mr. Joe, you're up again.
Good evening again, Mr. Chair and members of the board. This project is located at 3250 Pontiac Avenue, located in the R1 low-density residential zone. This project is exempt from CEQA. This is the first time submittal for the board's review. The project description for this case here is demolish an unpermitted lanai patio behind an existing detached garage to construct a 273 square foot addition located primarily on the side yard and to legalize a 355 square foot covered patio at the rear. The existing property is approximately 9,013 square feet. It is an interior lot. It is an irregular shape and gently slopes downwards from the north to south portions of the property. It's developed with a 1,281 square foot, one-story single-family residence with a 369 square foot detached garage. On to site planning, the proposed expansion, the side yard will probably be located at the west portion of the lot, and the existing covered patio is located at the south portion of the lot, at the rear. Overall, the project appears to preserve the uniformity of the surrounding of the neighborhood and meets the intent of the design guidelines. Onto mass and scale, the proposed modifications to the structure are designed to maintain and preserve the existing ranch style. The expansion, which is visible from Pontiac Street, and the interior west property line proposes a new bay window maintaining a visual interest. The one-story configuration will remain, and the height of the addition will match the existing home. Onto architectural style, the proposed addition and the proposed patio cover at the rear is in keeping with the ranch style. And overall, the project appears to maintain the same colors, materials, roof line, and the applicant has been able to complement the existing home with the proposed addition without diminishing the character of the home and the surrounding neighborhood. Staff's recommendation is to approve the project as presented. This concludes staff's presentation. The applicant and the homeowner are in the audience, and I'll be available for further questions.
Can you talk a little bit about the window selection that they made on this?
Absolutely. I know the plans state just wood windows. What was meant as submitted with the material board, it was to be a fiberglass wood clad windows.
Okay. And this is the page that they marked off. So is that the style that they're going with, or is that?
I don't believe so. It's just more of the example that had the verbiage, but that can be clarified with the applicant.
Great. Do we have any questions for staff? No? Do you have a question? I have one card for this project. Bob Taylor, if you could please come up. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Taylor with Nakaishi Associates, 2910 West Broadway, Los Angeles. This project is another modest addition. It's 273 square feet added onto the master bedroom to provide a master bath and a walk-in closet. The mass is extruded from the original building so that it ties into and doesn't change the massing of the original building. The colors and materials are to match. The windows throughout the house will be changed out with the fiberglass frame windows. They'll be changed out like for like, size for size, and they will all be sliders to match the existing, what they have there now. The patio cover in the back was built many, many years ago, and It provides a very nice little outdoor living area for them. We would like you to consider approving the project.
Do we have any questions for the applicants?
The windows are going to be completely replaced.
Yes.
Correct. There are no details, though, how you're intending to do the jambs and the sills. Are these...
We
Whatever.
provided a cut sheet from the,
Yeah, I saw this.
the existing windows are sliders, so this is a,
But you're not intending to push the windows in like it's shown here, right?
no.
Okay. Because these are nail-ons, right? That they're nail-ons, and then they get... Okay, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Oh, actually, I did. The shingles, I mean, the siding, it only wraps at the bottom, and then you're wrapping it around. I see. Okay. I'm fine. Thank you.
Is that the shingle right there?
Is there a particular reason why you're matching the windows slider per slider? In other words, from what I could tell, you're keeping the original mass of the building and the original mass of the roof and the bulk and so forth. You are adding some shingles to the front, which is that combined with the stucco will create a little more of a contemporary look to it. And you have the opportunity to perhaps change some of these tired sliders with some hung windows or awning windows or whatnot that would create more of a contemporary flair to it. I like the colors that you've chosen, and I'm wondering if there was a particular reason why you're literally matching slider to slider and so forth.
What the client is used to operating at this time, and to introduce a new window might cause some conflicts with furnishings or landscaping. And specifically, the patio cover at the rear is mounted at the header height of the window, so if you had casement windows opening out, they'd be hitting against the patio roof.
From the bedrooms,
Yes,
looking out to the patio,
correct.
bedroom number 2 or 3? This one? This bedroom or this bedroom?
The first one, yes.
So this is the problem?
That would be the problem. The other door, it's a sliding glass door, so. And there again, if we were to make it French doors, we'd have the same problem.
You've indicated the brownstone color.
Yes,
Is that the color you're going with?
that's the color we're going with, yes. They decided on the fiberglass because it can't be painted in the future, so if they
I
wanted to
see.
change the colors, they...
In this case, though, it's factory, the color is
it's
factory finish. And so the trim is a darker color and the house is a lighter color. Did you ever consider the cranberry color?
The
Which
client
would com-
did have an opportunity to look at the colors that were available, and they selected the brown.
I have no more questions.
Okay, thank you. Did you have any questions?
What are the materials of the deck and stair area that's being added?
At the rear,
Yes.
those are wood.
And the deck is wood also?
Deck is also wood.
So these are the shingles that you propose on the lower side of the house, right?
Yes.
What's there now? Is it real wood, or is it this
They
material?
have shingles there now. On
The real wood
existing
shingles.
portion of the- Yes.
Okay.
All the wood is painted a particular color?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, is it wood colored or is it?
No, it's
greens?
painted a darker green.
Okay. Well, hope you can match it. It's gonna.
I think it kind of looks nice that the on the drawing that the stairs and deck match the shingles. Then one of the green colors, I don't know.
Oh, to match the color from the shingle,
Right.
whatever they do there onto the...
I think it looks nice that way, but to do
that
it one
makes
of the
sense.
green colors, I don't think would look as nice.
That's a good point. We can make a note of that.
So the window trim and the shingles are going to be the darker green? Is that what you're proposing?
The window trim will be the pre-finished brown.
Yeah, I don't think they have a
There
trim
is no
around
other
the
trim.
This is a trim, is it not?
Well, that's a bay window. That's a bay, existing bay.
Oh, that's like a pop-out area.
And so this would be green, the dark green, and so would this?
Yes.
And then the plaster will be the lighter green.
Correct.
And then the windows will be the brownstone.
Okay. We have any other questions for him?
It works.
No more questions?
No more questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this project? No. Okay. Then we'll close the session and we'll discuss. Mr. Simonian, would you like to get us started on this one?
Sure. I'm sorry, I had one more question now that I'm looking at the drawings.
Okay.
Could we ask the
I'm sorry,
applicant to
could you please come
one
up
more
again?
time?
So we'll open it up again, and please state your name and address for the record again, since it's being recorded. Sorry.
My name is Bob Taylor with Nakaishi Associates, 2910 West Broadway, Los Angeles.
And I apologize for not asking you a moment ago. These dashed lines, what do they represent on the elevations?
Dash lines,
And you could come up here
Thank you.
if it's easier for you to answer the questions. I know it's kind of far back there.
the original windows on the original end of the house are indicated with the dash lines.
I see. And then this is new, and these are fixed. These windows are fixed, kind of bay windows over here.
Next to the
This window is this fixed window here, or it's a slider.
slider.
These are sliders, so are these.
Those are sliders.
I see. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it's a modest design similar to the last one. I like the fact how you've taken the massing of the roof, you've simply just extended it over. The property sits quite a bit away from the street. There's some mature landscaping adjacent to the area that you're pushing into, and so I don't think you're going to affect the property next door all that much. And the way you're continuing the roof seems to work well with the house, and it's going to blend quite nicely. You're picking a nice window. I'm a little perplexed as to you're going through the cost of replacing the windows, but then you're not really using that as an opportunity to perhaps use some different type of windows, similar type of windows you've indicated, but perhaps not just sliders or whatnot to match the existing, because I think that would make a big difference on the facade. And I think that if the house color is maintained with this light green, and then all the trim and the shingles and the fascia and that bay window trim that we were talking about becomes this dark green, it might be a little too much. I think these are almost nice accent colors, and then all of a sudden it's going to be very kind of a 1950s Palm Spring loud house. And so that was the only two comments I had, or concerns I should say, was the fact that we're not using this opportunity to perhaps go with a traditional expansion, however, give it more of a contemporary flair to it, and perhaps these color selections are a bit loud. If they want to go with the light green for the house, fine. If they want to use this as the window trim and the fascia, great. But I think the shingles, if it's more of a natural wood color, like a tiki color, perhaps, would look just amazing. And so that, I think, would really work well. It could even go with a darker stain for that shingle, which would give it a nice look. So I don't have a problem with the addition or the design of it. I'm just questioning some of the minor details with the color and the window types. Now, I understand some of the windows are existing and the home is being used, but I think there are some opportunities that perhaps staff could work with them on to come up with some more of a contemporary look. So those were my minor concerns.
Thank you. Would you like to?
I agree that the addition is modest, and I think it's, the way it's designed is nice. I'm not sure what is involved in upgrading this or legalizing the patio cover. And if it just appears, and I don't know what the sizes of the supports are, but that all the patio cover, the entry, and the stairs at the other end, they look like 4x4s, and that perhaps it would be a time to maybe upgrade those to either plant-ons or larger posts, so it was more substantial, because it looks weak in those areas. I don't know if the legalization of that patio cover could address that.
There's a picture of it.
I think the upgrade is going to make these weak posts stand out, so that it might be.
Actually, Mr. So are these, the patio cover, is it going to basically be the same one, but they're just going to check it? Is that what happens with legalizing it, or do...
That's correct.
So they're not planning on making a new one or anything like that?
No, they're asking for permission to maintain the existing wood patio cover.
So they are just proposing to keep it as is?
I just think boxing them in or something. At the entry. Look here.
They're pretty small looking. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Leona, would you like to give us your comments, please?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I agree with the comments. It is a modest addition, but with all additions, I think, whenever you add a remodel, Ms. Palmer said, an opportunity to really make things even nicer. And I sort of echo that comment, like the rear patio with the cover. When you look at the sections or the elevation, there's an opportunity to really create a nice deck that you can actually come right out instead of stepping down. And so I don't know if that's a project for the future or not, but that certainly would be something that would add a lot to the house. And then you can still have it covered, except that now instead of having to step down, you have a deck at the same level as the house. I think there was an argument why the windows are being replaced exactly the same, but I think if you're going through all that, maybe there's a way to sort of tweak things a little bit where you still maintain the same habit of how you use the windows, but you're adding a little more to it. So, it's a nice little project, but there's nothing in it that's sort of different than what's, it's sort of basically extending it and adding square footage. And I do agree with the comment on the siding. I think if you could give a more of a stained look to the siding, it could be kind of nice. Obviously, that requires more maintenance in the future, but there's probably ways to do it where you could seal the siding and with a material that will require less maintenance. But having said that, I agree with the comments, and I think we're all kind of saying the same thing. Feel like we're all going to support the project. We're just trying to throw these things out there so that you can think about them, and certainly I would think about a really nice deck there in the future.
Thank you. My comments are very similar. I think it is a small addition that's being made, and it's being in keeping with sort of the house. And I think it is also an opportunity with the windows. And I mean, I guess it is up to them to take advantage of it or not. But I understand that sort of that you've already had sort of the conversations about those things, and so we'll leave it up to that. I too think that maybe the siding and sort of the landing and all of the guardrail things those things should sort of go together in color-wise, and I would just leave that as a suggestion. I'm not gonna but I think that would be pretty nice to kind of as follows through the house. I think that would be pretty good. All in all, I think everything is there that we require, and I'm ready to support it. So, do we have any motion? Oh.
Well, prior to the motion, can I make some clarifications
Sure,
from what I heard? As a consideration, maybe updating the window selection along with the different types of styles or different functions other than just slider, just to be a consideration.
To achieve more of a contemporary.
Okay, correct. Also, to provide a stained appearance on the shingles with either a teak or a dark stain, to provide more of a natural brown look to the shingles. Sure. Was that going to be a consideration, or was that a condition?
What do you guys think?
I would like that to be a condition.
Condition.
I think it'll be very loud with that green in the front. So
I think it would enhance.
I think it's too much of that green there.
Yeah. It's a nice trim color as an accent, but as an overall front look, it might be. Verify that out.
You guys okay? Should we listen? Sure. Please come up. Let's open it back up. Again, of course, if you state your name and address for the record, please. Thanks.
I'm Jim Carson, 3250 Pontiac, La Crescenta. The house has been exactly like that for the last 30 years or so, and we just wanted to maintain that same look, just extend it out 10 feet. That was the purpose of the the color and the selection of the siding, and also those colors. That's what we've always had, and we like to maintain those if we can. And it's just two tones of green. It's not loud or anything like that. It's not like it's chartreuse or anything. It's just two tones of green. I just wanted to clarify the position on why we had just kept it that way and just extended it on over.
So the existing siding, though, you'd have to strip the paint and then...
Either strip the paint it or replace it, one or the other.
More difficult.
The man likes the green. What could we say?
Reminds me of money, so it's... that's why we continued and even wrapped it around into the new addition below the additional windows. I just thought I'd just clarify.
Okay. Thank you. Let's close it again. What do you guys think?
He seems pretty adamant about the green. He likes the green, and if that's the color he wants his house to be, I think we're all making the suggestion as professionals going, it might be loud, and you could really achieve a nicer look with a natural shingle stain, and it'll be more of a distinguished design, and it'll be much more appealing and comfortable. However, we'll leave it as a consideration, and it's up to you.
Is that okay?
Hopefully you'll change your mind on it and go along with a stain look. But I'm okay with a consideration, so I'm not sure if Ms. Palmer wants to.
Now, if he wants it green,
She's okay.
he can have it green.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, so I have a motion by Board Member Palmer and a second by Board Member Simonian with considerations of implementing windows with different functional types to provide a contemporary style, with second consideration to provide an appearance, to provide shingles with to be stained with a teak or a dark stain to provide more of a natural brown look to it.
Get these out of our way.
This will be a vote, roll call. Board Member Aliano,
Yes.
Board Member Palmer,
Yes.
Board Member Simonian,
Yes.
Board Member, Chairperson Yu.
Yes.
We have a 4-0 vote with one absent for approval with two considerations.
So we'll move to the next item on the agenda. And actually, we're going to see these next two projects together since they are side by side.
Who is the planner?
Two different planners.
Where is he?
Two different planners?
No, it's
No, it's the
Chris.
same one. Chris Baxter.
Okay. Let's take a 2-minute break to track down Mr. Baxter.
Okay. Let's see. 58. Okay. Where's Ricardo?
Which one's Ricardo? The first applicant?
No, this is the
There was a roof plan.
the
issue.
designer.
This last one. That's what they want to clear up.
Ricardo?
you guys do, because, I mean, you'll look at basically the same thing.
Yeah, we'll do it together.
So,
Okay, we're back on.
all right, thank you.
Let me tell them which ones we're doing.
Yes, sir.
Next on the agenda would be 1 PDR 2009-047-A and 048-A, 2517 and 2519 Canada Boulevard. The best. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chair, and members of the board, we have two cases that are side by side. And I want to ask you, we need to review and vote on them individually. Actually, let me back up. We need to vote on them individually. We could review them together. It depends on how you want to do that.
We're reviewing them together.
Hearing them together? Okay, very good. All right, we have 2517 over here, which are these two panels. 2519, these two panels over here. You have the photographs and these, I believe, a location map, but real quickly, here's a little location map here. As you're going north up Kenyatta Boulevard, they're on the left side of the street, about the middle of the block in that little commercial district here. There is, of course, Kenyatta Boulevard up front. There's a very large, wide public right-of-way in the front area. That's where these are located, 25 feet. This is all public right-of-way area, the umbrellas and the chairs and tables. Behind this is an alley, and then there's another commercial strip back here. There's a daycare back there. There's an apartment building, and there's some small residential buildings there. So it's residential, daycare, and more residential in this strip, but it's all in the C1 zone, directly behind the alley. So this is like a little commercial block right there. Then you have residential all around, multifamily right across the street. It is residential. Now the property here on our left side, which is the, as you look here on the lower side of the of the street, here's our property 2519. Here's our property 2517. This particular building at 2517 is 1,106 square feet. The property to the north, which is this building here, is 1,600 square feet. The facades for both buildings are going to be changed so that they have a common theme. The applicant, and I think we maybe briefly noted it in your staff report, is using them both for bakeries, but they're two separate tenants because you have two separate owners. When you look at your staff report, you see we have a similar applicant because he's the project developer, but we have an owner that's a separate owner for each project site. So, and those two owners do not want to open up in between. So when you look at the floor plans, they don't open in between each other. You have to go outside the building and around to get to them. So, but it seems to meet the applicant's needs to have the two uses, and you can look at their floor plans here and here to get a feel for how they're doing that, and staff has looked at those. Now, the public improvements technically are outside the board's jurisdiction of review. However, staff, because we had some good comments from we had some feedback, some of the neighbors came in and looked at the project during the public notice period. Had some good comments, so we sent a letter requesting information from the city engineer's office upstairs and the fire department to address a couple of the issues. And city engineer's office said no permanent improvements are going to be allowed in the public right-of-way, only the movable ones. And they said, when I followed up with them in some questions, no fire pit. You probably read that there's going to be a fire pit here. Applicant was looking at this as a movable fire pit, but city engineer said movable or permanent, it's not allowed. Landscape planters in the public right is fine. Umbrellas, the collapsible umbrellas, tables, chairs, fine. And I asked them if the board has a suggestion on the designs, would you mind? He said they have no problem with that. But technically, you have no jurisdiction over that. And I don't want you to lead you into, getting focused on that. But I just want to let you know they don't mind if you have a suggestion. They're certainly open to that stuff. When we look at the comment sections for both of these is, you know, we have three categories that we review. The site planning, the mass and scale, and the overall design. Primarily, the site planning doesn't change because there's no floor area additions. Here on the 2517 project, which is the southerly one, your building location stays the same. We're just doing the facade improvement. At the back of the property, you have an unimproved paved area, which you can see, I believe, in your photographs. And there is they're calling a 3-foot wide walkway, which is existing through here. And they'll have that gated off. At least it shows that in the plan as being gated off. On the property to the north, again, there's no change to the setbacks. We have a variance for this project up here as noted in your staff report, and I believe I attached that for you to review, which required a 5-foot setback with the planter area and the 5-foot setback up here. There was requirements back here for the parking, the landscaping in the back, for a trash enclosure back, but those are all conditioned, as you can see, in those conditions are applicable and under the zoning administrator's purview as you know how they will be implemented. So the first part, the site planning, really no issues for either one. For the mass and scale, this particular property, there will be an increase of from 14.5 feet to 17 feet 10 inches in terms of the parapet, so you can see a little bit right here. Part of that, I believe, is to, and the applicant can clarify, is to kind of continue the theme across here on your parapet heights, because if, as noted in the staff report, there's a slight grade change between the northerly and the southerly properties. In fact, I believe I have a little photo that shows that here I can let you look at. That shows just a slight change, so they're raising that parapet up. There's also the code requirement that you can't project into a street front setback unless you're 12 feet above the ground in this particular zone, in this particular commercial zone. The mass, the height issue for this property is only 9-inch difference, so they're only raising the parapet. If you look here, only 9 inches. And of course, why is this a little bigger? It's because this building facade is 5 feet back, whereas over here, this facade is right on the property line for all practical purposes, so not quite as large right there. The applicant also is going to have some AC screening, pretty minor, but you can see it probably in parts to screen the rooftop mechanical equipment. If we look in exhibits. The applicant also was good enough to submit some black lines here, so you might be able to see some of the details. It's kind of hard in the color versions to really see kind of the details and how it's all worked out, so that's here. And that leads us into the last section for both parts. And that's the overall design and detail parts, and I think that's what staff was looking at mostly. In general there as well, staff felt that for the 2517 project, which is the southerly one, we felt that the proposal's design, including its new roof, its overall architectural details and textures and quality materials, is an upgrade and an update to the existing condition. We feel that the proposed design is consistent with the design and the detailing standards and the design guidelines and with the character of other commercial and multifamily buildings in the area. And that's almost a ditto for the one next door. We pretty much said the same thing there. So, in terms of conditions or a recommendation, I believe we placed it, or a comment, it's just an FYI. The applicant, so the applicant be made aware of it if they're not already, is that the signs, first of all, when you have an individual single tenant on a building, there's no sign program required. So they're not required to come back, for instance, and be reviewed by this board. And staff was concerned because they didn't provide all the information for the signs may be a little bit large. And then there may be some question, for instance, about the possibly have some questions about having a sign face here on a wall and a sign face on that wall there. You can technically only have one sign per wall. But because we don't have all the information, and to us it's something that can easily be reviewed during the sign plan check, that wasn't really stressed. We just have it as a comment for each of these cases. Yes, sir.
I have a small question, and it pertains to the variance that the zoning administrator approved.
Yes, sir.
You said there were two parts to it. One was a landscape portion in the front, and then something about the rear.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little more on that, because I didn't quite understand it?
Well, let me just pull out the variance itself, and I'll go through it. You may have it if you want to follow along. I attached it here as well. In the back, there are several conditions to this variance that would be on page 2. So one of the conditions requires, well, let's back up. The applicants had, one of the issues they had asked for was to have a 0-foot front setback area. And to have less parking than what the code requires. So they got the approval for the parking, but they didn't get approval for the front setback. They needed to comply with the front setback. So the front setback, as we look over here where my pointer is where the property line is. So the building facade comes back over here. And the properties on either side, you can see, go to the property line. Those are legal nonconformities. So he's set back. And so that first condition says that a 5-foot landscape setback be provided behind the front property line. So that's one. Then the other ones at the back, there was a requirement for one standard and one small car space, because at the time, a small car space was allowed under the code. So that's what he had to provide. Another one is that a final parking and landscape plan be approved by the zoning administrator. And that's required. And in this particular one, it says at least one 24-inch box tree needs to be planted and maintained in the parking area as part of the landscape plan. There's another one that says the trash area and access thereto shall meet all code requirements. So when the project building permit was pulled, this should have been and which ones are supposedly built, was supposed to be a variance, was for a trash enclosure that's supposed to comply with code. And that's what it says here, it's supposed to comply with code at the time they came back through. And then the last one says that the rear building elevation shall be designed to be similar to the front elevation, except that no windows need be provided. So those were the conditions that were reviewed. And in our discussions with the zoning administrator, she has said that she has continuing jurisdiction, and so we have to, we look at each of those issues, and we'll look at them as well in the plan check process.
When it says that the front 5-foot section is to be maintained, that mean the entire area, or as it is now?
Well, that's
or only a portion of it?
That's to the zoning administrator. I believe I think the assistant director of planning would like to address that point. Right. I see a pointer.
Yeah, I'm glad you're paying close attention to what's to all these issues. We did review these specific plans with the zoning administrator, who, as Chris says, does have continuing jurisdiction over variances, and she's satisfied that the plans as proposed meet the intent of the variance that was granted. That for instance, the planter boxes meet the intent of the requirement for 5-foot landscape strip. The requirement for a 24-inch box tree is met by this proposal here to have 5 15-gallon trees. And as for the rear facade, matching the front facade, that is a standard that the DRB judges, and she's happy to defer that to the judgment of this board.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any more questions for Mr. Bradford? I think we're good. Did you have any more?
No, that pretty much concludes my comments, and if you have more questions, I'm open to them.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Two cards. Mr. Allen, you could, of course, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Alan Moikin. I'm the designer of the project. My address is 2255 Honolulu, Montrose 91020. Thank you, Chris, for explaining the project. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more about the descriptions and the discussions that Chris had. As far as the two owners, the buildings are owned by two individual land property owners. The person who's going through this, of course, with the permission of the owners, is the tenant that is going to be leasing this. In order for him to be able to open up on a property line with a zero setback, building department cannot allow that, being that it is going to be following the current California Building Code. You cannot have any openings on the property line. As long as the properties are tied together, the properties are owned by two different owners. Therefore, by building code, we are not allowed to have the openings. Obviously, if we wanted to have those openings, therefore, the bakeries and other, the kitchen areas would have been designed differently, would have been functioned differently. Due to the health department, by the way, the health department has reviewed the plans, and the interior layout of that's where it is. As far as the issues for this exterior, this is what we're hoping to have. We have a very large front public right-of-way sidewalk, and we want to provide outdoor seating, very nice, comfortable area. Some planter boxes, obviously we cannot plant in this public right-of-way, but we do want to have planter boxes. We want to bring a fire pit there. All of these are movable. And these are the discussions that we will have with the Public Works, provide any kind of bonding or anything that we need to have. But we want to create a very comfortable space that if somebody wants to go get coffee, bake, whatever they want, they can come and stop by during the day and enjoy it sitting outside. We do not have a lot of sitting out there. We're hoping that they would come and buy and leave, or if they want to enjoy outdoor sitting area, they can go ahead and use that. As far as the site planning and the variances and everything, as Tim explained, the variances was granted on the existing the use that was there, and that goes back many years ago. All we're here for is to renovate the facade and change the use, do a tenant improvement on the inside from what's there now, which is a supermarket or whatever you want to call it, to a bakery, retail/bakery space. So that's all we're proposing to do. We're not adding any square footage or anything. As a matter of fact, we met with Chris. Chris gave us the actual site plan that was approved under the variance, and we've kind of put back what it was originally approved, and we're going to try to bring back what it was originally approved in the past. What it's there now, I can't even describe, what's there now, but it's in terrible shape. So we want to clean that up. We want to clean everything up and make this a viable, clean destination for families and neighborhoods walking distance. And as far as the facade height increase, as Chris mentioned, the idea is to create a one even height facade elevation. Due to the height elevations, at some points we need to raise the left side higher than the right side, and the right side governs, and then basically the facade carries over, and that paneling comes over to the south. The owner himself has been involved with a restaurant and other projects in Europe, particularly in France, and one of the restaurants that he's been involved with, he wanted to bring the effect and the look that he had over there back to Glendale. I have some pictures of that, and if you want to see that, the actual, and as far as the, I have some cut sheets of the actual the wood paneling, the company, the products, and everything. As far as the signage, the main signage will be up there. The other signage that Chris was talking about is just small little writings as far as the menu, what the mission is about. So there's some descriptions on the panels that will be written, and basically you can walk up and be able to understand what the menu is on the inside. The openings and pretty much the proposed paneling is in such a way that it works with existing existing opening. We're not cutting and we're not doing any structural increase or anything like that. So we're basically updating what's there now. If you have any questions.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Milliken?
What are the temporary planters? What kind of planters are you
We really haven't really studied. If you have any suggestions, we'll be more than happy to. But the idea is that these are planter boxes. They're not planted in ground because it's in the public right-of-way. So we do want to have the ability if one day we need to move them. But
I'm not sure what the definition of movable.
Well, movable meaning that it's a large planter box. I mean, if one day, if they need to move this, they can come and get the crane and they can lift it. And that's what it is, or a forklift. And that's what the movable. It's not dug in and it's not on grade. There's nothing poured with the foundation or anything. It is movable.
The reason that you put portable planters in that 5-foot space that's behind the property line as opposed to a...
Well, the idea is that we want to kind of complement the opening that we're going to be proposing in the storefront and how people are going to be see the interior of the bakery. On the right side, on the north side, we're going to have more of a solid area with a picture window where more of a presentation work will be done, so people can go up and kind of see some of the pastries or other stuff that it can be hands-on, kind of see how people are going to be preparing that. So in front of that, we're thinking of having a planter there. On the left side, pretty much in the middle to the bottom, where we have floor-to-ceiling glass or storefront. Obviously, we really didn't want to have any planters there, but we want to kind of put the planter on the side. So we want to put back with the planter where there's no pedestrian walkway. There's more of a planter there.
I understood that. I just wondered why it was a temporary planter as opposed to a permanent.
It was just more of the owner's call than anything else. Yeah.
Do we have any more questions? I just have a quick one. So on the back portion, the black portion that you outlined is basically the addition on the parapet to raise it up.
It's shaded. It should be shaded. It's basically the way it is right now it's like a shed roof, and what we're doing is we're just squaring that off.
Okay. So color-wise, it's just you're just matching the stucco.
What we want to do is just right now it's plastered wall in the back. We were thinking of adding some colors there. One thing that it's been noted, I believe incorrectly on the plans, it's that on that sheet itself, the infills within that 3-foot walkway, obviously no one's going to see it, along the south, the 3-foot, right there. There are infills of the existing windows that I'm infilling it with brick. Yeah. I'm just going to leave it as brick rather than paint those infills with paint, and that's how it's been depicted. So I think it's just going to, that whole facade, right now it's just a brick facade, so I'm just going to leave it as, fill it in. To give us the fire rating and also the same continuous finish. No one's going to see it. It's just a very narrow passageway there.
Right. Okay. No questions? Thank you very much. I have one additional card on this project. Greg Hallford, if you could please come up. And your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
My name is Greg Hulford, and I live at 1845 Tamerlane Drive. I recently just moved to the Woodlands, so my wife and I are new in the area. However, I grew up in Glendale and have been here for many years. Love the city. My grandmother and grandfather actually lived in the apartment, which is straight across from the proposed development. So I've seen many years of when it used to be kind of in its glory, so to speak, and was very cleaned up. But over the years, it's kind of somewhat fallen down. So it's exciting to hear that something like this could come in. However, when I saw it, my question would be, I love the design. I think it's very strong. In fact, I'm Senior Creative Director for Universal Studios, Dubai Island, the current project, so I work with developers and planners, architects from all over the world, and so I can see where it's going. However, my question would be, is it feels so right for a place like Melrose or something that has a little bit more of an industrial feel with the color palette and all of that that's being chosen. I just question whether that fits in with the Woodlands. The photographic rendering that is on the back is a little bit misleading in that the colors are darker than the way it actually is. The cleaner and the building next to it are actually a lot brighter, and the lodge is a lot more earth tone. This seems to indicate there that it all blends together. However, in reality, if you put in that black facade, you'll get an extreme variance, and you'll get almost a negative space. So I think that I pulled this off the website, which looks very different, and you can see the contrast that there actually is. This is a situation where it would be very important to actually go out to the site. I don't know if all of you have been out there to see how this fits in, but with this much contrast going on, you need to see what's really there. Before I came to the meeting, I drove all the way down Kenyatta from Honolulu down here to Broadway, and if you go along there, there is no business or no house that has a black facade. There isn't anything like that. So when the statement was made that it fits and it is compatible and there are buildings like this around it, I would question that, because as far as palette goes, I would say produce that reference, because I don't think it exists. I think it would be very much at home in Melrose or another area, but it just concerns me as far as this being in this area. As far as the landscaping goes, I'm not sure exactly what they're planning. It certainly could benefit from that to take some of the harshness off the color change, but it will only produce certain a little bit of a pop, but won't get a whole. That's a very drastic palette change from that lodge to this new proposed development, and then onto the other buildings. So that was my concern.
Okay.
And that's all. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? I think we have a question for you.
Yes, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
And it's nice that you're in the design field and you work with design professionals, and so you probably have some ideas of the color palette you think is compatible. And have you thought about that?
I think if you look at, for instance, next to the building that's recently been converted into the medical center, you have the China Inn, and then there's the building that used to be Jessup's. It was a dairy. They changed it into an Italian, I'm not sure what it's called, but restaurant. And it's very earth-tony, and it feels like it blends in with what's along Kenyatta Boulevard. I think that's important. You could go many different ways. I just think that so much black is so much contrasting here that it'll feel like the facade just falls away from you. And you'll enhance the cleaners and all of that. Everyone will look at those bold colors, and that will stand out more.
And I'm not completely clear on the building you're referring to, because I don't drive by it every day.
Oh, okay.
So is it more of a darker brown? Do you see it as more of a darker brown? Do you see more of a...
Not so much very, very dark brown, but it is more in the earth tones. It's not quite what would you call a dark brown.
Okay.
Just in between. Sure. I think you'd want to contrast your lodge there a little bit and bring it out against that. Also I don't see any use of draperies, use of curtains, some contrasting colors just to get some life going to it. So it doesn't feel so industrial.
Okay. Well, thank you. That at least gives me a good idea of what you had in mind and what you see happening, because you live around there or used to live there, now you've come back.
Yes. And again, I think it's a very exciting project. I just love to see it fit within the woodlands. I think that it just needs some warmth to it. It needs some warmth to it. That's kind of a common denominator. It's we have a very homey feel in this area. That is something that's been consistent from the early 60s to today, and it's one of the reasons my wife and I came back into the area is it is very neighborhoody. It has a lot of warmth to it. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to see that continued, and boy, anything to fix up that area is great, but it needs to feel like it's part of the area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to come up and...
There should actually be one more card from Ms. Myrna Stanley amongst them.
I don't think I have another one.
This one. And then this is the lost.
Right, I know the building. I'm trying to buy all the
No, I just have one on the other project, and that's it.
Lost in the paperwork.
You gave me a card?
We're going to have to ask you to fill another one out, sorry. But Ms. Myrna Stanley submitted a card.
And please state your name. And
Good evening, or good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Myrna Stanley, President of Verdugo Woodlands Homeowners Association. First of all, we are so excited about this. It's just, I think there's a hole in the ceiling where I was jumping up and down. I was so excited. Thank you. And I hope that whatever happens there serves as a catalyst to push the other property owners to do something with their tenant spaces, because I'm telling you, that doesn't do it justice. Most of the other tenant spaces, I think they meet the definition of blight. It's that bad. So again, we're very excited about this. Our comments are that this is a very contemporary building. They're very clean lines. And that, in combination with the location and the color, it just gives us some concern. And it doesn't say woodlands to us. It's very beautiful. It's very nice. And I understand a contemporary building, you need clean lines, you need dark colors. I don't know if you could use a green with black in it, if they're really sold on the black, if that would help soften it. But another suggestion is, Mr. Aliano, you were on this board when the project across from the college was reviewed. Do you remember that? And we were successful in having this board put on a condition that street trees be provided, and street trees with canopies, not because I heard you were going to put 5 trees in there, and I thought, I don't know where they're going to put 5, unless they're queen palms, and those aren't trees in our estimation. We need trees with canopies that say woodland. So if you could do that, put 2 or 3 trees in the public right-of-way, and maybe soften the color a little bit, I think that'd go a long way. And the other thing is the sign. I heard I guess Mr. Baxter say that the sign isn't under your purview, but it should be as presented. It appears to be individual letters pinned to the building, and that would be fabulous. It's perfect. Otherwise, can you imagine somebody putting up a can sign like that's on the cleaners and liquor store? It would ruin it. So if you could soften the color a bit and provide street trees, we would really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you would like to come up and...
Well, Al Malikian, designer.
2 minutes.
I completely understand where the comments are coming from as far as the color. And the color selection was, this was exactly my reaction when the owner came and said, sit down, because I want to tell you this is the color that I want. And I need you to understand where I'm coming from before you say no to me. And if you take a look at those photos and where he's coming from and what it is going to end up looking like, I know the color black itself, it's a very bold gesture, but when you actually see the built product, I think it's just going to be a lot softer. I think choosing a color is a personal opinion. I think you have a turquoise, you have a bright yellow, you have a white, you have a beige, you have a variety of different colors along that section of that block. So it has two parts to this, picking the color. Obviously, first one is he wants to stand out. He wants to be a successful business. He wants to make sure that people will see him there. And that is the main purpose of him doing this. The second purpose is that he wants to basically incorporate and bring some of the Europe feeling that he had in I'm not sure what city in France, but he wants to bring some of that back here to the local area. So I think as far as the color, I cannot really defend it, or I cannot really argue against it. It's just a preference that he wants to have. I think if it goes lighter, I don't think he's going to be happy. I think that, and I would appreciate if you can pass those photos so you guys can take a look at and where he's going. And once I saw those, I felt a lot more comfortable what I was defending on. As far as the trees, we would love to plant trees, but again, it's a facade renovation, and I don't know to what extent a facade renovation he can put up the money and put in trees. I think he is going to the extent of putting these planter boxes too. He understands that there are tree issues, shading issues. That's why the canopies are there. So if there are ways that we can do it, I don't see why we can't. I mean, why he wouldn't? But if you guys know, I don't.
Could you wrap it up, Mr. Milliken?
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
All right.
Do you have questions for him?
Yeah.
Alan, I think we have a question for you.
I have a question for you. With the trees that members of the audience are requesting or have suggested, have you guys considered where it might be appropriate to place them, and have you guys discussed that with engineering and so forth? Is it
Honestly,
possible to put it there?
There's a 10-foot sidewalk there, and then from the 10-foot sidewalk, I believe we have about 25 or 30 feet to the building. I don't remember the exact dimension. If you go ahead and put the tree in front of these two buildings, you're going to have two trees right in front of it. I mean, this entire block is without any trees along the. I think the push need to come that entire block needs to have those trees, and I don't know where and how we can. I think homeowner association should kind of bring this up with the public works. I think we will back them up any way we can, but putting trees on a public right-of-way, I think that's not just a simply a direction that the design review can say, let's go ahead and do it. It's just more of them wanting to put it in. There are irrigation issues, there are other planting issues, there are encroaching into the sidewalk issues. So there's a lot of different aspects to just planting trees. Again, we're willing to put whatever we can, such as deep planter boxes, movable, that can sustain 24-gallon, whatever the trees that we need to put in those planter boxes. But other than that, if you have any way of suggesting to the public works or us working with them, I don't see why we can't.
And have members of the public and also the homeowners association, have they seen these pictures that you?
I don't think. I just prepared this, so I really would appreciate if you could.
It'd be good to actually share that with them at this point, because to get their thoughts on it at least.
Yeah.
See
Can
what
I,
you think.
Can I show this?
Just to make sure that, unfortunately, when a photograph is handed to the board, it becomes
come back.
matter of public record. So just to make sure that
Don't walk away with it.
we do get it back.
Those are all the questions I had.
Okay, thank you. Actually, one quick question, Alan. Would you consider putting in maybe more spandrel glass in the areas to?
Sure. The glass actually goes from floor to the
Right.
10th.
I guess my questions would be in some of these areas, just because in the pictures that you provided us, it looks really black and everything, but
You
the
mean
glass...
divide the opening or the glass? Or
No, I was thinking maybe a couple more of these panels becoming spandrel glasses, so it reads more like a lot more glass.
What we have, I mean, I would, if you can put it as a consideration, because it's a non-reinforced brick, and that area that we're putting the opening is the bay window that is actually projecting out from the property line.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're completely removing that section of the bay window, and we're pushing it in, and we're using that opening as... So
It's
if
the
I
same
cut a
opening.
brick, non-reinforced
opening,
brick,
huh?
it's the whole building is going to fall apart. So, but yeah, if you want to put it as a consideration, I don't see why if we can
Okay.
find a
Do we
way
have any
to-
other questions for...
So you're saying that on this elevation, you can't open this up?
Well,
That
not
right
even
there
open
is a
it up.
non-reinforced brick, yeah. And
Well, I
that
was just
door
thinking,
is
yeah.
what's there right now. I don't know if you guys have the photos that you can kind of see, and there's an actual bay window there with the overhang. So, and that whole entire wood paneling is attached to the brick itself with the mansard roofing. So that whole thing is coming out. So we're going to have this exposed brick with the actual openings, and within those openings, we're planning to put as much window as we can.
Right. I guess I was thinking more spandrel, where it's just a fake window almost that's applied and attached to it.
We can. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about that, but
Okay.
I think that's it for the questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no more cards for this project. Did you want to...
Mind if we comment on this?
Sure, why don't you come up and... We'll keep it brief, though. 2 minutes? We have 2 minutes.
Greg Holford, once again. I can see where the appeal would be in the photographs that are here. I would stress that what's really working here and doesn't work as much in here is that you've got contrasting areas that set off the black. You've got something that's going on also in the lower photographs, and actually stylistically this is very much even some shops that are done in London. It gives it almost a wood type feel to it, so you feel it has a little warmer texture to it, whereas in this rendering it almost feels metallic to me. The use of the windows for reflectivity to actually put color into the facade is very effective, but if you're doing all just regular windows you can see through, you will lose that there and you won't get any of that bounce. So I think that if these are followed as a guideline, you'll have a much, much stronger appeal. But there is a big difference between the proposed photographic rendering and these photos that you've actually been presented with.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, so I think we'll close it from here, and would you like to get us started?
I agree this is a large improvement in the area, and I like having the idea with bringing the tables and chairs outside. I realize the applicant wants to make this stand out, but I think we also have to consider color-wise that you have various other small buildings adjacent to it, and I think this picture probably is lighter than what they're proposing, and I like that better. And the building on the left is really in more of an orange. So to have the dark black and an orange and the brighter colors of the other buildings, until such time as they change those other buildings, I think it might stand out too much, total black. As far as the landscaping goes and street trees, I don't think street trees would fit in this area because there are a lot of narrow, small buildings, one story, and the trees would block it, but you might consider something like they do on Foothill Boulevard in La Cañada, where they've got the large pots with plantings, and they have all the stores have various pots, which wouldn't detract from the signage or what the buildings are, but would offer some color and some break, and it doesn't take up a lot of the sidewalk. So I do think it needs some greenery out there.
Thank you.
That's all the comments I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Adano, would you like to chime in, please?
Oh, they're picking me, all right.
Go like that.
Okay. Well, I'm a bit torn because I like what's been being done here. I drive by this area pretty much on a daily basis, and I think whatever can be done to improve that block would be great, because to me right now it feels like a sort of a mishmash of different things, especially the lodge with the matriculation at the top, and even the bright colors. I mean, if we're talking about woodland, I mean, is that really, are those really the colors of the area? I mean, for me, it's hard to grasp. We've reviewed a lot of projects in the woodlands, and the woodlands has a variety of styles, but what makes it really a wonderful place is not just the style, but it's basically the greenery and the trees and how everything kind of blends together. But this block is kind of a very unique piece. If you drive down Cañada, this is the only block that has any kind of commercial. And mostly it's residential, and then there's apartments across the street, and so that makes it. So as I was driving down here, coming from the north part of Glendale, I slowed down a bit just to take another look, and I realized it's really a very unique area. It could be this sort of hangout, once you start bringing these kinds of services in there, because right now there's a cleaner, there's a deli, and they're useful venues. I mean, I'm not saying that's not helping, but when you start bringing cafes and things like that where people can hang out on the sidewalk, this whole area will have a completely different dynamic, I think in a positive way, especially at nighttime when the lights are lit up inside and there's cafe tables outside with candlelights and things like that. I think it'll be great. I'm not sure in terms of a bakery whether the bakery intends to be open late at night. Normally they're more of a morning and afternoon. But nevertheless, I think this is really great, and it's very exciting that you have a person or a group of people that are willing to do more there. So I would say, whatever is being done here should begin to serve as a precedent for what's going to be done later on that block, because I can see, especially the lodge, once something like this gets built, people might get encouraged to improve their properties, because now they're kind of at odds. I mean, they're not really in the same vein of in terms of quality of the design of the facades. They're not in the same. They won't be in the same realm. So I'm really thrilled that something like this is going to happen there. I listened very carefully to the neighbors and the gentleman and Ms. Stanley as well. I respect all those opinions, and especially, there's a fear that perhaps this being so dark may not feel, as the gentleman said, it could be more of a negative space. And I try to visualize that, and I think that's a really good point. But then you start thinking about how these facades are being designed. The 2519, to me, I think is a more successful facade, because you do have a lot of glass, and if you use the right type of glass, you will get reflectivity, and I think that would be great. And that building is slightly recessed. You got more shadow lines. Really, what becomes prominent is the signage, background. That becomes what you really see when you drive by. And what's below that will probably be energized by all these things, the color inside, activity inside, lights, things like that, and the glass. And if you start adding landscaping on the sidewalk, or whether they're trees or planter boxes as being proposed, all those colors will be reflected, just like the gentleman said they would do in the picture that was being shown. So the other building, the 2517, because of the restrictions of not being able to open it up as much, that could really end up being fairly dark. So maybe there is where you start introducing maybe a lighter tone on the facade itself, and keeping the banner top maybe consistent. I think it would also help to sort of make the two pieces kind of begin to start talking to each other, rather than just being two buildings looking like one. Now you might have two buildings looking like two buildings, but having a common language, which would be the top piece, the parapet with the signage, and then everything comes around it. But individually, at the eye level, where you come in and what you see when you drive by, could have some variations. So I'm torn, because I really like. I think this would be a really great experiment, and that might not sound great, but because I think it might end up being successful, because it has a certain stylish appeal to me that it feels very elegant. It feels very appropriate, especially for the type of service that these buildings are going to provide. And it might be quite nice. And I don't know if it's exactly woodland. I'm having a hard time defining woodland from a commercial standpoint, because the woodland that I'm used to is the residential character, all these wonderful buildings that we have there. This strip of facade is really quite unique, and I don't think anything there is really woodland at all. I think maybe the building at the corner perhaps has a little bit more charming character that starts to fit in with some of the architecture of the residential. So I'm willing to hear more. We haven't finished our discussion yet, and maybe that will allow me to comment some more. One other thing I want to say is that I think, to me, it seems that this applicant and the owners and the people that are going to develop this, provide the service, are really serious about providing something that is of good quality and not all this wood trim. It appears to me that it has to be stained well and it has to be maintained. There is a building on Honolulu, a bar, I forget the name. It's right on the north side of Honolulu, right next to Bluefish, and there they use Fat Dog. It used to be called something else. Baru, right. That has a very dark facade, and facing south, they have a lot of maintenance problems because that wood keeps drying out and cracks. So here, this building faces east, and you might not have as much of a problem, but there, looking at Honolulu, that building is probably, I would say, is one of these little buildings. And when you drive by, you really don't notice that it's dark because there's so much else going on. And maybe the key here is that if the people next door will maintain or develop their property, maybe those are the buildings that will add this additional color. I'm not sure. I think this will definitely set a precedent, and I can see these buildings being a catalyst, as Ms. Stanley said, for the future. The other buildings are going to want to sort of upgrade a bit. The cleaners and the signage on the cleaners, that's all very chaotic. It doesn't have this kind of discipline. So I'm happy what I'm seeing, but I'm willing to hear other comments to sort of figure out how we're going to go with this. But that's what I want to say for now.
Thank you. Mr. Simoni.
Well, I'd like to start off by complimenting the designer for another unique approach to a project, and that's usually your trademark. You do come up with original things, and this is certainly one of them as well. All the comments that have been made, I echo with. You drive up and down that street, and there isn't much retail, and then you just hang a left in any one of those residential streets, and you're just engulfed in these wonderful pedestrian-friendly, tree-lined streets that have a wonderful character to them. However, this portion of the street and the commercial has not evolved over time, and perhaps it will. And Montrose area took a while for it to modernize as well, and so this is probably on its way. There's some things that we're given, and what we're given is the cleaners and the computer repair to the north is horrible. Those colors are completely out of context, and they're loud, and I would assume they've done that just to grab some attention from the cars driving by. And I think it's the Knights Hall or whatever it is to the south. It doesn't have anything substantial to it as well, and is more of an ornate piece of dingbat, I guess is the best way to describe it, a stucco box. And so now we have this addition in the middle, which is which is very nice. And the first thing I thought about when I read this, when I reviewed this, is I was going to call a friend who lives down the road and say, guess what? You got this cafe coming up the road, and it'll be a great place for you to stroll down to and to grab a coffee or a pastry in the weekends. And because of the colors that I've chosen, it's very hard to do a rendering, a colored rendering depicting these dark colors. Once you get into the dark colors, the printers or the printing technology that's out there, unless you go really, really high tech, is hard to grasp it. However, pictures are worth 1,000 words, and we have these pictures of what is being proposed. And if I really look closely, I could kind of see that the panels that are proposed here match the panels in the pictures. The first thing that popped out in my mind was those canopies, and then now that I'm looking at the picture, they're actually softer. They're canvas, and which is another thing that's very difficult to depict in a rendering as well. And so I think the mechanical portion of this rendering that really was popping out to me were those canopies, and I thought they were like built from solid 4x6 steel tubes kind of thing. And when I'm looking at the picture, that's not the case. The picture has these, wonderful canvas umbrellas that have reliefs at the corner, actually. And so that's going to soften that up as well. The gentleman that spoke mentioned that the pictures work a lot better for him, and it's a lot more comfortable because of the fact that there's this white background, and so there's the dark wood juxtaposed next to the white background, and that softens things up. So that's perhaps something that could easily be incorporated into this if we choose to go down that route. But again, I'd like to emphasize that the panels are very difficult to illustrate in color over here, and so when I'm looking at the pictures are actually very appealing, and I think will work. As far as the black, whether it be better with more of a dark brown or a black or something earth-toned, I think is kind of piercing hairs at this point, because the overall language of the design I agree with, and the overall seating area I agree with. The umbrellas that are proposed I like. The signage that is not part of the application but is on the rendering I agree with. So I'm wondering if there's any which way that the applicant and the designer could maybe work with the community somehow to add some relief. But if that's not the case, and if the black is the only issue, I don't think that'll create such a large problem for the neighborhood as presented. But I always like to see at least the community and the designer and the applicant sort of end up on the same page, because this is wonderful. I think you want to create this. You want to bring this here. And if it's just a matter of some colors, I think that's an easy fix. As far as the trees are concerned, I'm going to kind of refer to our landscape specialist and also, I guess, the different departments within the city. I'm not sure if we have the authority to mandate that, but I think that street would be wonderful if it's tree lined, and that's maybe something the homeowners association could take up. And if the trees are placed, maybe they could be placed between the property lines as opposed to right in the middle of the property, and that way they won't get in the way of the signage. And that's perhaps something that could be looked at. I'm just not sure if it's part of our preview today. And so I think I've taken a long time. I've taken a lot of your time, but I support the project in that it's, I think, designed right. And I think the only thing that's popping out here is the color. And that's kind of a subjective thing, and I'm wondering what your opinion is on it, Mr. Chairman, and then perhaps even see what the designer's take on it is, if perhaps working with some different colors, if it's possible. So anyways, but I support the project. I think I've said plenty, so I'll kind of pass
Thank you.
along the time to you, Mr. Chair.
I personally, I think the project is going to be a very successful project. I mean, in this rendition or in the next, I think it's going to be a very big improvement to that area, as we've all said. And so I think we're very happy about that. I actually think that looking at the pictures that you provided and sort of the renderings that we have here, they're closer than we think. I think that the pictures that are there now show sort of the black portion of the facade sitting on maybe a taller building, maybe a 1.5, 2-story building there. And the scale of that black portion of it is actually pretty similar to what's here now. And so I kind of see it as, well, they have a building that's 2-story. That portion of the front, the beginning portion is black, and it's sort of proportioned in that sense. And I kind of see this as, well, the sky becomes sort of the background, the black versus the white. So I don't have really a big problem, because I think if this was a 2-story black building, it would be an issue. It wouldn't make any sense, But I think being a 1-story, sort of a backdrop of the mountains and that kind of stuff, I'm okay with proportionally. There is a lot of black in there, especially the one 2517 versus the 2519, where there's a lot more glass, a lot of reflective surfaces, which it's very clear on the pictures that you can see it. It's very contrasts very nicely with the dark panels that are there. My only suggestion would be maybe on the 2517 put in some reflective surfaces, surfaces such as, they don't have to be windows, and I understand that structurally you can't put them in, but spandrel glass or some kind of reflective surface to create sort of a sense of more glass there, I think would work well. I think, maybe the same color that you're using for the lettering, use as trim work or something just to break up the panels a little bit would work. That's more of a suggestion. I think on the rendering, those sort of large coverings does a disservice to that area, because it does look very industrial. They look like these huge sort of metal canopies that are sitting in front there. And if you look at one of the pictures, there's actually 2 types of canopies that are shown. One, sort of the large that come off of the edges, and I understand it's to clear all the middle space from columns and those kinds of things. But there's also the more typical ones that you see that come off of the center, a lot smaller in scale. I think maybe utilizing that and the furniture that you pick out in the front, and maybe using more wood tones for that, I think would definitely change that whole front area. And then being sort of backdropped in the first 10, 11 feet of that building with the planting that you're going to have, I think it's totally going to change it from what the rendering shows. And I think that would work really well, using wood tones in the furniture and maybe on the canopy portion of it, to sort of push the building sort of back a little bit from that. And I think with those minor changes, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be very successful, and the color doesn't bother me as much as if we implement a little of those, a couple of those things in there. So I'd like to maybe open it up to you guys to see if there's anything else you guys think. Do you have any other comments, I guess?
I just think maybe, I agree that it's going to be successful too, but maybe the city should look at this entire block as far as unifying it with planting or doing something with the color of the concrete, or just to unify it, because it is an individual block in a residential area, and that there was some designation by the city as a total block rather than each individual applicant saying, well, I can't do this, and you end up with these 2 nice buildings and just something in front of it, and the rest doesn't get developed. So maybe that's another study at another time. I don't think it should hold up.
Address that very briefly. There is a master street tree list that Public Works uses as a guide, and there is a designated street tree and alternatives for the stretch of Canada, although obviously they haven't.
Yeah, I think this should be studied a little more closely, other than saying there's the list and these trees go on this street, because you are dealing with small, narrow, 1-story buildings, and the type of trees could really be more of a hindrance than maybe looking at it a little more carefully.
Right.
Okay. Do you guys want to discuss any more on maybe some of the things that we talked about?
I'm not, well, I've been clear on it from my point of view. I support the project. And in my opinion, the color is somewhat subjective. So I'm going to look over, I guess, some of those conditions that staff had recommended.
Oh, Mr. Chairman of the Board, I really didn't have any. I just had the comments about the signs.
I see, which is going to be separate anyways.
Yes. It's just to let the applicant know that the signs that they have, which may look nice, may not meet the code So as long as they met the code, they could look like that in terms of the design. The design is not the issue for the code. As far as comments that I heard from the board members, what I'd like to do is we're kind of trying to narrow these things down to get more specific wording. And other than reflective glass, and first let me do this. Let me separate two things. First, let's just work the private property, and then we'll work the public right-of-way. Public right-of-way, we have no jurisdiction, but you can make comments on, and I'll be glad to pass those on to the city engineer's office when they look at the proposed improvements in the right-of-way for the encroachment permit. So first, on the private property, I heard discussion several times about a reflective glass, maybe glass panels or something. I would like to have a little bit more specifics on that so that I can at least write, let's say, a sentence or so. And then I heard something about breaking up panels, and I was wondering if there's any little bit more description there. But and then that was Mr. Yu, and I heard here something about trees in landscape planter boxes. Would that be in the public right away though? Not in the, no change to the private property
No,
area?
they could be just
Got it.
large planters.
So that would be the public right away. So at this point though, the only really thing I've heard is from Mr. Yu in terms of specifics. I've heard a lot of compliments from the other board members, but not specifics.
Mr., you also mentioned the type of seating.
Yes, now that's in the public right away.
I see.
So I can get to that part, but right now is...
My two suggestions were basically
Yes, sir.
maybe taking the color of the signage and using it as trim on some of the paneling to kind of
Okay, all right. So
outline the paneling more, so it doesn't just read as one big block, but...
There's actually a good example of that here.
Yeah.
See how they've done it here?
Yeah, not necessarily gold, but yeah.
Well, not gold, but
Exactly.
I had the same thought, maybe these parapets become borders rather than just, they are borders, but they're not being,
So-
that could add another color, in this case.
So taking colors from the signs and using them as trim elements?
Trim colors, yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
And use...
And my other suggestion was,
Trim
I
colors.
know that structurally we can't add windows to the two panels that are here,
Yes, sir.
but maybe provide some kind of spandrel glass or some kind of reflective surface that we can add to there, so it sort of acts almost as a... Come in. Okay, why don't you go ahead and come back up?
If the purpose is to lighten that up, if you put a spandrel glass, we need to paint that, so you're going to go back to square one again to have a black or a dark. So if you want to have lighten that up or something, I think
Well, I was thinking painting it a color that would more closely match a window color, not black or dark.
I see.
Yeah.
So
that it
tonight
reads
it'll be
almost as
just
a big
dark, so I was going to say maybe like come up with a lighter signage or something, the panel
yeah.
lightening up the panels or something like that.
Because I like what's going on here with the amount of glass that's there. And
Right.
So try to do something of it here.
Okay.
I think that's more the comment there.
On 2517, right next to the door, there's a logo, and that's a logo metallic with a black stained background.
The idea
That
is-
could change. You could make that background a little lighter, maybe get into some beige colors or maybe some other
and just maybe a contrasting
Yeah,
or a white
and that
on
goes for the panel on the other side of the window. Maybe that panel, the window, and then the signage, all that could be a lighter color with the glass in the middle. Now you start reading as a band, so that
Yeah, that's the
it's
only-
not so dark. Because the 2517, as I said, is the one that worries me more because there's so much dark. But the 2519, there's quite a bit of glass on the ground level, on the pedestrian eye level.
Yeah.
So I'm not
Whatever I
not
do,
worried.
the signage has to have some sort of a contrast. The point is that pedestrian walk, they come, they want to be able to read and
Yeah.
what they're presenting on
Right.
the wall. That's his concept.
Yeah, as long as it's contrasting, it's fine. Yeah.
So increase the amount of glass area at 2517 Kenyatta, for example, provides spandrel glass or reflective surface to lighten up the facade.
Yes.
If I may make a correction, I don't think the board was suggesting that increase the glass so much as the lighter colors to,
Okay.
similar to the glass. You want to lighten the color of
Right,
these two
one or
panels.
the other, whichever.
Spandrel glass was one suggestion you made.
Yeah.
surface area. Okay.
In terms of the glass, I think, if you look at the pictures that were given to us, there is a lot of reflective glass there, and I think that would help a lot.
Yeah, that works well on the picture.
Because, there'll be tables, and the tables are metallic. You'll have color of planting or whatever. I think it will be great. But not reflective glass, as you would see in a commercial tower downtown. Something enough to pick up reflectivity and still be able to see through. So I think that's very important, and I would definitely, if the planters, I think, are going to be very helpful. I think the planters should be, and you probably have a lot more to say about this, but the planters should have some color in them and not just green shrubbery. I think you start planting some seasonal flowers that start.
It needs to be uniform and,
Right.
and tie in with the architecture. It
Yeah.
can't just stick in a planting.
May I ask, are we back in the public right-of-way? There is a planter box on the private property, because that's where I was trying to emphasize first. Are you referring to
I
that?
would like to see what types of plantings would be the one that's out of the right-of-way on the property as well as what's in the right-of-way, because I think that could enhance or
Okay.
detract from the project.
Staff could work with you on that if that's, if you do that.
That's fine.
Is that fine?
I was saying that I think that the planting, since there's a minimal amount of planting, that we should be careful as to what's planted there, and that it ties in with the architecture and has some brightness to it. If the applicant wanted to present that, we could look at it, or whatever the suggestion would be, but I think it's important to see that.
And the characteristics you'd be looking for were color?
Yes, the seasonal colors and uniformity to tie in with the architectural style. Is that all right? And can I back up well, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut this. We have anything else on the landscape? I also, Mr. Aliano kind of referred to reflective glass. I want to just check with Alan over there. You want to help me with some wording on, because it sounded like more than just a lighter surface area. But
I would suggest we say that the glass should have some reflectivity, but obviously Mr. Aliano made it clear that he doesn't think full mirrored glass like we'd see on an office tower is appropriate.
Yes. So if we were to say something, since we need to be kind of specific, increase the amount of I had used glass surface area, but we don't want to use that term glass surface area. We want to use more of a lighter surface area.
I would suggest on Mr. Aliano's comment that we, the conditioner's suggestion, however the board decides on this particular topic or issue, should read something like the glass should have some nominal measure of reflectivity.
I'm happy with that.
Okay with that.
Want to entertain a motion?
I'd like to add another comment if I can, and I think Mr. Maliki might, I don't know if you might agree with this, but because it is street furniture and, things can change, I think in the example that you gave us, because of the scale and the fact of the sidewalk being what it is, I think, and you might want to present this to your client, is that I think that the market umbrella, which is the smaller one that you show here, traditional market umbrella, might work better, especially if you pick a canvas that's light, like a beige or something like that. These umbrellas, even though they're represented with a light color, I think they're shown, and I know that why that is. I think when you're rendering in a computer, you have a palette and you sort of use it, but it shows the umbrellas being more of a light gray, but in reality they're probably more white.
Right.
But I think, having had another look at this, I think the umbrellas, they're very attractive, but I think maybe that's what's creating part of this tension there. Because these kinds of umbrellas require a lot of space around them in order for them to have some scale. And when you put 4 of them in such a small area, it's already, I think it's crowding it. And the smaller umbrella would give it a smaller scale, and I think, you could use those, as I said, even the canvas, you could add maybe some not reds, but some burgundies, some yellows, or some, not yellows in the sense canary yellow, but you know what I mean. Those canvases, they come in many different colors, and now you have the black stain that's being contrasted by some accents. I think that will help a lot. I would be happy with that, because normally when I drive around and I see a cafe, I don't really look at the facade. The first thing that catches my eye is the umbrellas, because it's hot, it's you want something shady, and right away the umbrella and the table already, to me, says, wow, there's a little oasis for me to go sit at. The facade doesn't really matter that much, and my feeling is that even though you'll spend a lot of time and money designing these facades, because they're in the back, what's in the foreground is really what's going to matter. So the kind of tables you pick, the kind of chairs, all that street furniture, I think that would be really important. And that's, I think, how you can satisfy the concerns about the color, not having enough color, because you can still have the classy look that you want, and then you introduce this other dimension you do it with canvas. And I know you can make that work. So having said that, I'm already feeling a little bit better about it. So. But I know that the architecture is going to be done very nicely, so I'm not too worried. In fact, I'm not worried at all. I just think we need to sort of get past this hurdle that we were having to deal with, which is this is so dark, it just doesn't feel light enough. Okay, that's it. Can you put that in one little sentence?
I wish I could.
2?
I have some ideas, but as some direction for the city engineer's office, let me just start off and kind of put lots of little sentences. And so I have like 3 or 4 of them. Use smaller sized umbrellas, lighter color umbrellas to provide accent and contrast to the dark facade. Maybe those 2 sentences, something along that line. Use smaller sized umbrellas, use lighter colored umbrellas, or use a lighter umbrella colors to provide accent and contrast to the dark building facade.
Right, I think that's general enough for you to do whatever you think is...
I would consider adding there to make sure the furniture.
Oh, yes.
I think you could do the same thing with planter, furniture, and umbrellas.
Right, all those
Okay, so
I also think
I would I would put in quote market umbrellas, because I think that's how those are referred to.
I think the furniture we want to have. I heard something here about the furniture.
I think I had said a wood tone or
yes,
earth tone.
Furniture, wood tone.
Yeah.
Wood tone furniture. That's right. Now, may I just ask this question here? Are these considerations or are these conditions?
Can they be conditions?
No.
Public right of way.
Well, in the public right of way, no, it's really not. You can't. You can only make it as recommendations.
Then we make a recommendation.
Now, since we're in the public right of way realm here, I really like what Ms. Palmer had to say earlier about somehow I think the city needs to get involved in this, not just for these 2 buildings, but looking on to the future, because I have a feeling that this block is going to develop even more, and not in terms of size, but in terms of the aesthetic. And I think the idea of coming up with a scheme for unifying that street with trees, pick some kind of a species that would work, just like they've done in Ocean View they put all those myrtle trees to kind of unify that street. I'm not saying that's what you have to do here, but a program like that I think will help. And the applicant can't do that. That has to be the city to be able to say, are we willing to do that? And if we do, we'll set up a program and we will do that. Maybe it'll take a few years to do, but you have a program. Because I think putting trees just in front of these 2 buildings is not going to help. you need to have an entire block that feels uniform, and then the trees actually tie everything together, even though there's other things going on behind it.
Is there a motion we want to make?
Well, I like to move to approve the project with the comments and requirement or suggestions that we made.
I'll second it. Approve with comments and recommendations. Did I hear conditions in there anywhere?
Well, you're saying that in the public way we can't make conditions.
Right, but
There
on
are
the private-
conditions for the building, though, I think.
Conditions like spandrel glass,
Or
the
option, yeah, the reflectivity of the glass, I think those are
reflectivity of the
conditions.
glass, and the
More trim.
signs,
Different
use
color.
of signs as trim. Are those conditions?
Yes, I believe
Okay, so these will be conditions.
I think with the conditions, we should just make sure we know what we're asking Mr. Malekian to do, because I heard that there were 3 conditions. One was that the sign color could be used as a trim color,
Yes.
particularly at the parapet. That at least on the 22517 building, there's the 2 panels that are not glass adjacent to the door you'd like to see in a lighter color similar to the glass. We'll leave it up to Mr. Malekian to determine how to apply that, although you suggested spandrel glass. And then Mr. Aliano had that the glass itself that you do see through should have some measure of reflectivity, nominal reflectivity.
Right.
So those are the 3 conditions I heard.
3 conditions, okay. And then,
Mr. Foy is saying, remembers there's also a comment on planting.
yes,
a planting plan.
planters need to provide seasonal colors and uniformity to tie with the architectural style. That could be on the property as well as in the public right-of-way.
I would make it a condition on the property to tie in
Okay.
with a recommendation on the public right-of-way.
Okay. So,
One question on that. The recommendation on the right-of-way would be dictated through which department, you think?
the city engineer's office.
Engineer's office.
Yes, sir, the city engineer's
But
office.
there is some planting in the right-of-way that's the applicant with some planters and things, as opposed to, different from doing the street trees or pots or whatever.
That's correct. Okay, he has
Two
those
different
planter
things.
boxes.
Planter boxes within the property, right?
No, in
Within
the,
that front 5 foot
but also outside of that.
outside.
That doesn't reflect the streetscape.
And so the idea is to make them copacetic, make them the same. And what if the designer wanted to come up with something more creative for within the property, within that 5 foot setback, that would be more artistic or more maybe creative than what the engineering office might have on their palette? Because I'm afraid we might be limiting them by saying matching the whatever the engineering department might dictate, because I'm not sure how much depth their palette of materials, and I don't know the answer to
Mr.
that.
Simonian, if I may jump in and kind of help clarify this. If the planting that's in the public right-of-way is in movable planter boxes that the engineer's office can bring in a forklift and get out of the way if they need to do work, I'm not sure that the engineer's office is really going to care what kind of species or or trees are put in the boxes, as long as they are not a permanent fixture in the right-of-way. So I think Ms. Palmer's suggestion, was suggesting all the landscaping in the planter boxes should be uniform or consistent.
Okay. I see.
Okay. Do we want to add anything to the condition about having you look at them, or can we just leave that open? Okay, we can leave it open.
Why don't we just leave it open?
Okay. Okay.
You can explore it.
All right. And then for recommendations, we have the recommendations for the use a lighter sized umbrella, a smaller sized umbrella, lighter color umbrella color to provide accent and contrast to the dark building facade. Then the planters, we sort of are going to sort of tie it in with the one that was on the private property. And then the furniture to use a wood tone, wood or more earth tone type colors.
For
or the furniture, tables, chairs?
Well, contrasting colors, they could be earth tones, they could be accents, yeah.
It's kind of nice what's depicted in these pictures.
Yeah, I think the pictures are very nice, because the orange and these ochres are really nice, they're...
Okay.
They add, I think the underlying theme here, the sense of all these comments, I think the applicant understands, is that we're trying to figure out a way to, for the applicant to get what they want, which is this sort of dark panel scheme that's very elegant and classy, and at the same time, line it up so that, this facade, these facades that are on that street, will not feel so dark and heavy.
Yes.
And I think that's really what we're trying to do.
I think we had a motion. Do we have a second
Yes.
motion?
Yes. We have a second?
I've seconded it. yes.
I'm sorry. This morning. Okay. Then we'll do roll call. Mr. Aliano?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
And Mr. Yu?
Yes.
It'll be 4-0 approved with conditions and recommendations in the
Now, would this be for both projects? Because again, these are two
that's a good
separate
point. You know
projects,
something?
so
Let's do this. Yes.
you'd have to essentially...
Thank you very much. We need to do that.
Because essentially, if there's differences between the two properties, such as the spandrel, not the spandrel glass, but the reflective glass along one, you would essentially, you would apply that condition only to that particular property, whether, I think it was 25? 17.
Yes.
So with that you just approved, actually, with that condition. So now you can vote on 2519, which is the next design review board case, and just eliminate that condition, yet apply all the other conditions that you just mentioned.
I would move to approve.
Right, but the 2519 is pretty much the same, except that we don't have the
Just
issue
the
with the
glass.
panels.
Exactly, and so this, you would be eliminating that condition. So I think that was a motion made by Board Member Palmer.
Do we have a second?
I'll second
So
it.
we have a motion by Palmer, we have a second by, I'm sorry.
Mr. Simonian?
Mr. Simonian again. And roll call would be Mr. Aliano,
Yes.
Ms. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Simonian,
Yes.
and Mr. Yu.
Yes.
Okay, it's approved with conditions on a private property and
Thank you.
recommendations on the public
Great.
right of way.
Okay, let's
just a
move
matter
to
of-
our last project. 1-PDR-2009-043-A, 1564 Sheridan Road. And Lydia, you're up.
Thank you. Just allow me one moment to... The last item on tonight's agenda is DRB case number 1-PDR 2009-043A. It's for 1564 Sheridan Road. The applicant and the property owner are Armin Sarkisian. This is the first time submittal for final review, and the project is exempt from CEQA. The project summary is actually the removal of more than 50% of the combined area of roof and exterior walls of the previous one-story, 1,836 square foot house. That home is then going to be reconstructed and expanded to 2,528 square feet, resulting in a net increase of 692 square feet. The property is located on a flat lot. The lot itself is just over 14,000 square feet, and the building pad, the home, is set back from the street 90 feet. This is a rather unique situation because staff worked with the applicant's design team. We had several meetings. We were trying to work with the applicant and the designer to get this project exempt because it was under 700 square feet. It was less than 200 square feet visible from the public right-of-way, and the proposal itself was to be compatible with the existing modern ranch-style home. Following these multiple meetings and somewhat designer board exemption, The plans went into plan check as Design Review Board exempted. However, prior to obtaining the building permit, and they had gone into plan check as a 692 square foot addition. Unfortunately, there was an error. The building department discovered that the structure was pretty much demolished more than 50% of the exterior roof and wall, and as such, there was this difficult place because, you know, they had received an exemption for a 692 square foot addition. However, they removed more than 50% of the exterior walls, essentially rendering it new construction. And so we're coming here today before you as a new structure, a new single-family home. Again, the majority of it meets what was the Design Review Board exempted. But again, you are looking at it as if it was a brand new structure. So it meets all of the zoning standards for brand new construction, greater than 10-foot side yard setbacks, required 2-car garage, et cetera, et cetera. But again, this is somewhat of a unique set of circumstances because in one respect, it's a reconstruction and an addition, but on the other hand, technically by zoning code, it's considered a new structure. So that said, the previous home, as you see here, would be this particular site plan. The new proposal would include essentially around 450 square feet addition on the south and east side of the home. This would be the enlargement of the bedrooms, the extension of the existing family room, extension of the living room, and a new entry porch. So you'll notice the comparing what was previously existed, just sort of the expansion of the building footprint. Thereby, there's not much change because the building itself is going to be located essentially in the same location as the previous home, way tucked back on that flag lot. It was previously a one-story structure. They're proposing a one-story structure, so essentially the mass and scale is pretty much the same. In terms of site planning, again, it's located off the flag lot. They're going to be utilizing the existing 2-car garage, which remains. They're not making any changes to the pool or the rear yard other than the expansion of the building itself from the east, south, and west portions of the building outline as it was before demolition. In terms of the building design and detailing, you'll notice the photographs here and that were included in your packet. It was relatively what we consider a modern ranch. There was a low profile, very simple type elevation. The windows, majority of which were aluminum with very small frames. In the proposal, they try to carry over that type of modern ranch. Again, low profile, single story. We had worked with the applicant in terms of a conversation they wanted to provide vinyl windows. Again, these were previously aluminum sliders. They were now trying to upgrade it to vinyl windows. There was some discussion that the vinyl windows be the very small framed windows, and you'll notice here we just need also a little bit of, make sure this is clarification, in our discussion for the exemption. These were the windows that were discussed. Now, the project applicant, the property owner would like to, at this point in this particular proposal, has come back and is seeking approval by the board for a little bit thicker, wider framed windows. So that's going to be up to the board to decide. You know, staff had initially said, you know, those smaller profile would be more consistent with the type of modern aluminum style windows that were previously existing, yet there is a proposal on board from the property owner. There's going to be stucco. They've also incorporated, there was wood siding, essentially highlighting the entryway. You'll notice in the photographs more certain pieces that were painted wood siding. The project also proposes to feature this wood siding. In this case, it's not going to be wood, it's going to be hardy plank. So they are using details from the previous home in the new proposal. You'll notice here, pass around the color material sample. They're going a little bit darker, a little bit more earth tone than the previous structure. Well, staff would like to point out, and I guess this was mentioned by one of the board members just prior to the meeting, the roof plan itself has certain characteristics which, again, the roof is gone completely. You'll notice that in the photographs right now. So in the proposed roof plan, between the garage and the home, there is a crevice that might need to be addressed. There were certain sketches that were made that might actually be, in terms of simplifying the proposed roof plan. We have those sketches here that would mimic more along of what the roof and its cake here to what was previously existing on the side. If you'd like, I can go into greater detail regarding the sketches that were just quickly done right before the meeting. Other than that, that essentially describes the project as succinctly as I can possibly do so. And if you have any further questions.
I noticed the plan on the board and the packet we received shows this wood or composite siding.
Mm-hmm.
It's showing in an earth tones or brown, and it says it's white.
Yeah, I think this is the color that they're proposing.
So the plans are incorrect.
Yeah, the plans are correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Because the plans call them
Plans
out as
call for white siding. That shows it.
white color.
yeah, there is an incorrect.
So it's not going to be white, it's going to be what the plan shows.
I
Okay.
think it's this one here.
Yeah, okay.
Any other further questions?
And the main reason that they've kept the new proposed design identical to what was exempted is primarily because of the existing foundation and so forth that they'd like to utilize and the existing stud walls that are remaining.
Correct. They wanted to, they essentially got through the design review board exemption process. Fortunately, they removed more than 50% of the exterior walls even before the building permit was issued. And as such, they felt they would like to go forward with this project to present it to the board rather than completely redesigning the project, expanding it even further, changing perhaps the architectural style, making it very different from what was exempted. So,
Has the Chevy Chase Homeowners Association commented on this particular project? Have you had any conversations?
we actually had two individuals. Mr. Barnes came in. I spoke with him myself. We met at the counter. I explained the situation, the fact that this is essentially going to be a rebuild and an expansion, that the massing and the scale is going to be very similar to what was previously there. It's the one-story, low-slung, similar style architecturally to the one that was there. So, no, they did not have any issues regarding this particular project.
And the color elevations that are depicted there?
Yes.
It seems as though the siding has kind of a varnish look, but the color samples that were presented as painted. So
It's painted.
That's what's
I'm going to
proposed.
allow the designer and the property owner to address, and again, this is something that we've had discussions on just one of the previous cases on tonight's agenda, so
Very good.
I'm sure that they'd be amenable to what the board has to recommend.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one card for this project. Did the applicant or owner want to? We'll take that one first. Thanks. So why don't you go ahead and state your name and address for the record?
My name is Arman Sarkisian. I'm the applicant and owner of the property at 1564 Sheridan Road, Glendale, California.
Please talk into the mic, please. I can't hear you.
Should I repeat, or was I clear?
Please, yeah. Why don't you repeat that?
My name is Arman Sarkisian. I'm the applicant and the owner of the 1564 Sheridan Road, and I reside at 2721 East Chevy Chase Drive, Glendale, California.
Okay. Go ahead.
Basically, we purchased the house in late 2007, and we started off with pretty much the house itself was totally run down. Roof issues, cracked concrete issues. Apparently, they had some addition done, which was semi-family room considered, but it was all cracked. The walls were cracked, so there's a lot of leaking issue. So me and my wife, we basically decided, well, we can't really move in, and we can't really just fix one thing. We have to pretty much fix everything that's in there. So at that time, we figured, okay, how about if we add a certain amount of square footage to make the kids' room a little bit bigger and the family room a little bit bigger. So we came to the city, to the planning, and pretty much asked around what our limitations are, and what we can do, what we can't do. And based on that, when we hired our design team, and they start designing the house. And then we represented that design to the planning, and going back and forth with planning as far as their recommendation as far as design goes, or you can't do this, you can't do that. So we changed around quite a bit to get it where planning would approve, so we don't have to go, being a remodeling, so we don't have to go through DRB, so we can get our plan approved over the counter. And then at that time when we got the exemption, the design was approved, basically because we didn't require any demolishing permits, so we said in order to advance the process, because we bought the house and we're renting at the same time, it was more of a money and budget issue. So I said if we can advance this process so we can do the demolishing based on the approved plans. And so when the engineering approves, so we got kind of a step ahead of ourselves. But then again, this whole thing turned around and backfired on us. That some was planning issues as far as overlooking certain items that they didn't see that it's going to be more than 50% when we do the actual demolishing. In actual cases, even if we didn't demolish the house, if we got approval and then we demolish the house, this issue would come up again, because there are some internal walls we had to take off and the roof, which was a major part of the house. So we're here now basically to do what it takes to get the project up and running so we can get back to our lives.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The only other card that I have is Levi Padilla. Did you want to come up and speak? Okay. All right, that's the only one. Anyone else would like to speak on this project? No? Okay. Then we'll close the session and begin. Mr. Simonia, would you like to get us started on this one?
Can I see the material board? You know, I visited this property this afternoon, and it's amazing. It seems like, you know, a bomb went off, and I could just imagine the discomfort that it's created for, you know, the owner and also the neighbors. The single-family residence directly adjacent to it, so this area over here, this home is depressed about, 7-8 feet. I'm not quite sure what the number is. And so the existing house sits above it, but there's a lot of landscaping and so forth, and so it's stepping back, and then it's proposing a one-story, and so I don't really see it impacting the neighbors all that much. And that was one of the first things I was trying to figure out, because, you know, in these flagged lots, it's what you end up doing inside the property could actually affect the adjacent ones quite a bit. And so, you know, looking over, you know, this flag lot situation, you know, we have this house here, which is this one, which is down, and then this home is more closer to the street, and these two are really accessed from up here. Well, there you go. And so it wasn't affecting the neighbors, and so the main question I had was, you know, they have the opportunity to design a new house, but they were keeping the same footprint, And so after visiting it, it seems as though they want to use the same foundation that's there. They have this 18-foot concrete foundation that's existing. A couple of walls are there, including the garage and so forth, and then the pool in the rear. And so the overall, mass and layout of the house is nothing out of the ordinary, I should say. It's a very nondescript design is what we have here. So it's not often we see a new design that's so nondescript. We usually see something a little more to it. This is one of those situations where it literally is like taking a picture of an existing house that was built in the 60s and saying, here, this is what we're going to build. And so we have this situation, again, because of the footprint and so forth, the mass and the bulk of the building and the shape of it and the exterior of it is going to be somewhat prescribed. And so what we really then focus in on, and what I started focusing on, were really the materials. And so there's two materials being proposed, which is nice, stucco and siding. It's got the horizontal siding, which works well with the ranch-style home, and it has a porch, a sort of a recessed entrance, which is also in line with the ranch style. And then we really focus in on the colors. In this case, I think these colors aren't quite working for me, and so that's something to consider, is why such a bland earth tony colors. But the bigger question, of course, are the windows, the vinyl windows that are being proposed. Now, what's interesting about this house is you literally cannot see it from the street. You can't see it. You see the garage door, so it'd be nice to have a nice garage door, and you can't really see it from the adjacent neighbor either because of the orientation. I'm not sure if the neighbor is here. She's nodding, saying yes, so she is here. She sees the roof. And so some portions of it are visible. So we have this garage door that's visible from the street that we could do something about. We have a roof that's visible, and what's being proposed, there's some shingle roofing materials, asphalt shingles, I guess, is what's being proposed. So the idea is to try to, I guess, move this project along so you're up and running quickly. And so I always get nervous when I'm presented with, or we're presented with projects that are under construction, because there's always some hardship, whether it's the physical building or monetary or codes. There's always something that's insurpassable, and they come to us going, what do we do? And there's no right answer. This is a situation where it's basically a new construction, so there's things we can do and there's things that we can suggest. I'm assuming that the overall location of the building works, because for the reasons that I've stated. I'm assuming that the overall plan and the orientation of it works, because the footing is already there, and that's certainly going to create some advantages as far as finances of the project are concerned. So again, all I was really focusing on was the use of materials and building details. And there wasn't really much that I could see in the color elevations that were provided, because they're just not providing too much detail to us. So I was hoping to see some nicer renderings here, but those aren't here as well. And so typically what this board has suggested is, when we have stucco windows, we use a wood sill around it. We maybe use a thicker wall system, like a 2x6 wall system, so the windows are recessed a little more, so that creates some shadow that could occur in those areas, let's say. We've also suggested that when there's a use of different materials, whether it's siding or whatnot, it follows through. So if a portion of the building pops out that's siding, it becomes siding all the way around. We've spoken about creating a nicer entrance, using a higher quality of windows, and using a higher quality of garage doors. In this case, I think we could make some suggestions and start working on this design and seeing what we can do. I think the porches, we have this opportunity to maybe beef up those columns, to create some nicer columns and some nicer details with the rafters and the fascias and so forth. So I think what's presented to us is bare bones, and I think what we need to do is add layers of detail to it, not changing the plan and not changing the overall scheme of things, to help the applicant and also help the neighbor, because the neighbor's been dealing with this vacant nuisance for a long time, and the neighborhood itself. And those are my thoughts. So I think that's a good kickoff portion for us to at least start talking about it, but that's my approach at least to this solution.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to go next?
I agree with Mr. Saroyan's comments. I'm kind of wondering if you're redoing the house, that there's an existing water heater that's sitting outside the house, that maybe that could be incorporated within, because to build a new house with a water heater strapped to the outside
Thank you.
really not something.
Board Member Palmer, because that was actually in the staff report as a condition of approval, that the water heater, if it remains outside of the home as opposed to being incorporated into the home, that there be an enclosure built around it to be incorporated. But
Maybe at the end of it. Okay, bring you back up.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll
The fact that the house is really not seen, I'm not too concerned about the windows, but I do think that, suggesting recessing and enhancing the entry, some of these things, to put a house back exactly the same way it is, and with this color combination, I still think the house has become a new dated house. And that some of the colors and some of the details could really enhance that without breaking the bank. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think the comments have been made very good, and I agree with what's been said. Without repeating things, I'm having issues with this project, and the reason is that Mrs. Moyen said it as well. It's basically a new house, and I'm expecting a lot more. Especially when it comes to fenestration, especially when it comes to materials. I think the materials are there. You have plaster, and you have wood siding, and you have, well, I guess that's it. You have a little bit of history on the other side, but it's how you use them, and I think, I don't think you've really gone beyond. I think you're sort of limiting yourself. As far as the fenestration is concerned, I have concerns about, for example, windows are all the same size, but if you look at the plan, each one of these rooms is different. You have sleeping areas, you have the living areas, and so on, and I think the windows should actually say something about that on the outside. Because when you look at this elevation, everything is the same. There's no hierarchy of what really is going on behind the facade, or the walls, the exterior walls. So I think you need to work on these windows all the way around. I think the windows themselves, being vinyl, I already have an issue with, because I don't consider a vinyl window a good quality window from aesthetically. I mean, in terms of thermal and all that, it has its advantages, but you can find other windows that can do the same thing. So I would revisit that. I would revisit and try to find a window that actually, one thing, these are, I think they can only come in white. I don't think you can get any other color. And then you're stuck with a white color, where you can get other windows that are either paintable or even, I'm not, perhaps the budget on this house does not warrant metal-clad window, but there are fiberglass windows that can be painted. They're a little bit more expensive than vinyl, but I think in a house like this that you're rebuilding, you want to give a character. I think you can really change the look quite a bit by combining some of these prefabricated windows that can be clad in fiberglass. So I definitely work on the fenestration. I will definitely work also on the siding. I think you have some little spots where this is happening, but maybe you might want to explore using it elsewhere, so that maybe that becomes a little more prominent. I also want to comment about the eaves. I think you have an opportunity here to actually make the eaves a little bit bigger. To me, they look too stubby, and it almost feels like you have the walls and then the roof just comes right up. I think I don't have an issue with hip roofs. I think it's a good scheme in terms of roofing shape. This, I think, needs to be resolved. That to me doesn't feel right. But when you get into these sort of hip system, I think the eaves are very important. And you might want to think about how the eaves get finished underneath. Are they going to be exploded? Are they going to be done with the plaster? Are they going to be done with tongue and groove elements? You have to think about that, because that will add another dimension. Perhaps you want to think about the thickness too. They're very thin. I mean, maybe you want to give it a little bit more mass so that the roof becomes more of a nice, elegant hat rather than just a very thin looking thing. The garage doors, I mean, I think I don't have an issue with it being simple like that. I think actually the wood is nice. But I really think I'd like to see it again, and I think there's an opportunity here to actually get other people involved, maybe a professional designer or an architect, someone that can really bring in another dimension to this project and sort of make it a kind of a killer design rather than just, like Mr. Simonian says, nondescript. And I think we should be expecting a lot more than that when you're building a brand new project. If it was a remodel like we've seen, a few little square feet addition can't make people do a lot because it becomes absurd. But here we have an opportunity to really do a great project. And today I don't think it's a great project, but I think it will be if you work at it a little bit longer.
Thank you. I think it's good to hear the history of it. I think it's complicated. Maybe the lesson to be learned there is that make sure you know what you're getting approved. And as you guys are going through it, maybe a lesson to somebody that's listening now that, to follow what you're getting approved and make sure that your person that you're relying on knows what's going on with that. So as we throw that out there. I'm torn as well. It could be such a great project on such a great site, because as you go up that driveway and then you get there and you see all these big trees and the canopy that it provides, and then like you say, you see sort of a World War II bomb that went on there. And so I think it'd be a shame to build this there. I think it's a lost opportunity. I'm not sure yet if it needs to come back yet. I'm still torn in that, so I haven't decided yet. But it could be so much more. The materials that you use, the vinyl windows, I'm not so crazy about, especially with the bigger frame. I think it just emphasizes that. The vinyl. The entry is so nondescript, so you kind of just walk in through the side, and then there's this big two-leaf door that opens up. It's kind of strange. And then as soon as you get in, you're in this room, and then you have to kind of like make this quick left turn again to get into where you're going. The door is in the way. It's like it's not a great layout. And I understand you're trying to use the existing floor plate to do it. So I'm kind of torn.
Chairman Yu, if I may.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Obviously, this is a complicated case because the house is and has been in the process of being removed, and you're kind of reviewing something that's in progress, and you've expressed your reservations or kind of discomfort about being put in that situation. So I think that should, I would sort of suggest that may factor into your decision-making process as, if Chairman Aliano or Board Member Aliano suggested he'd like to see the project again. That's a further delay on the part of the owners. And as it relates to your comment about being important to know what you're getting approved for, it's always a two-way conversation at the counter when we're looking at these projects, and sometimes drawings are unclear and sometimes vague, and sometimes staff is not always clear what's going on. So, this is a case as it may be that there is sort of both staff and the applicant were not communicating properly as to what the full scope of the project was. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
Something to take into account as you move forward and decide what direction you'd like to give the applicant.
Okay.
Could I?
No, go ahead. Just think through this again.
Yeah, there's something really nice about a one-story house, especially on a lot that you have. It's really a unique lot. You know, you're somewhat segregated from the street. You have a lot of mature trees. You have a lot of opportunities to open up portions of the house right into the backyard. So when you're entertaining, you could just go right inside the house from the exterior. There could be interaction. There's these way of really working with your site. It's almost like buying a suit from a cheap retailer or getting a custom-made suit done. Now, the price is not going to be all that much difference when you're done with this. When you get a nice designer involved that understands that and designs the house in such a way that is taking advantage of the site, you will enjoy that much more, and you're not going to spend that much more money. This board, what we're accustomed to seeing is a higher quality of a new construction when it comes in. And so it's very difficult for us, as hard as it is, to see that the situation you're in, and we know that it is a financial tough situation. I mean, with the economy where it is, to be paying a mortgage on a place for 2 years, I couldn't even fathom doing that. It is, I understand where you're going through. So the idea is to try to get you through this as quickly as possible. We want to get you in and out. That's the best thing for you. It's the best thing for the neighbors. The best thing for everybody. And so we're trying to give you as much feedback as possible so you're able to quickly move along. And so a good architect, you're 3/4 there. You don't have to tell him or her too much. They kind of know, if they are used to working with the city, what the city wants. So I suggest you get an architect that works with the city and is successful with the city. Get an architect that understands ranch architecture. One that is going to basically get along with the homeowner association and the neighbors and so forth, and is going to bring forward something that will not get appealed, that is going to bring something that's going to move forward in a positive way. The last thing you want to do is come up with a project that's going to get appealed. We just had Chevy Chase Homeowners Association team up with a neighbor and appeal another project not too far from here. They lost months and all that effort, all that emotional effort, and all that financial effort for what? Nothing. And so I think I've said enough. My heart really goes out to you guys, and you heard it really from 4 people that says, hey, this is not it. You could do more.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the best case, to maybe bring it back.
I agree.
Because, man, you could open it up with a courtyard in the back or something, Do we have a motion that we'd like to consider?
He would like-
did you want to come back up? Okay, give you a chance. We'll open it up. State your name and address again for the record.
Sure. Arman Sarkisian, owner and applicant for 1564 Sheridan Road.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. With all due respect, all your comments are right on the money. I'm not arguing any of the comments. It's correct. But the whole idea was we weren't planning to build a new house. We were remodeling. So I understand what you're saying as far as, if we were planning to build a new house, we will probably take it down to foundation, which we didn't. So foundation, we tried to keep the same in order to be within the financial capability of myself. So the remodeling became, technically speaking, a new construction because we tore down the roof, because the roof was in a bad shape to begin with. And at the same time, we had to take the roof down because of the 690 square foot addition that we had to raise the roof up in order to have the correct slope. So that's how we came to this court. Otherwise, we were supposed to get this done over the counter. We weren't planning to build a new house. We were planning to remodel and move in. So, as I said, all your comments are correct. You could have had this lot better looking house in that neighborhood with the same amount of money almost, because we probably designed that house twice. So we had to pay the designer, we had to pay the mechanical engineer, all the engineering fees we had to pay twice. So for us, in order to go redesign it again, it's pretty much impossible, financially. It just can't happen. That's the dilemma.
Well, can I ask you a question? Because
Sure.
I thank you for saying all that. At least for me, I don't see an issue with the placement or the footprint of the house or the massing. I'm not asking that you do that. I mean, I know there's opportunities there that you can open up and things like that, but that's another project. All I'm saying is whatever you have there, the actual envelope with the roof, you can articulate all these surfaces a lot better than you have on the drawing right now, and you'll get a better house. So my question is, how long will it take you to get your team together to come back with a better version of this, something that we can all say, you know what, this is pretty good. I mean, we're not asking for you to take chunks of the building out and put it somewhere else. I think at least I'm saying I'm okay with the footprint, I'm okay with the height, I'm okay with the roof plan and the massing. There's some little things that need to be worked out. I just don't think that aesthetically there's a lot there. And you can do a lot with surfaces. You don't have to really do major moving around. I think here, like I said, if you address the fenestration, all I'm saying is there's a row of windows there that all look the same. Come up with a plan, an aesthetic scheme that makes all those windows make more sense in terms of how they're used and things like that. So that will add some aesthetic dimension to the house. That's all I'm saying. And then you look at the eave. Should the eaves be 2 feet? Should they be 24, 26, 28, 30 inch, whatever? Should the eaves be thicker? And you start experimenting with that, and then you propose something. And there's a few other things like the heater. Those things can be worked into the design. So I'm not asking for you to go back and hire a team of people to come back and redesign a brand new house with different foundations. I'm past that. I understand your dilemma, and I'm okay with the footprint. I really am. I just want to see a better looking building. Okay. And I think you can do that. I don't think it requires a lot of effort, which is why I'm asking, how long do you think it will take? 3 weeks, 4 weeks to come back to this board?
At the most 3 weeks, I would say.
Is that really so hard? I mean, I know it's hard to do, but consider the long term.
No, I understand what you're saying, yeah.
Consider how much of a better project you're going to get. And I would do it. I mean, I know that...
As long as, as far as cosmetically, color, choice of windows, those are all doable stuff. It's not going to do any damage as far as that goes. But as far as structural design changes, that becomes a whole different
I'm not going there. That's not
we
where
have
I'm
to
going.
redo all our engineering, redo a lot of other calculations. That's going to take more time, and it's just got.
I don't think that's what we're saying. Even though we were hoping you could do that, but I don't think that's what we're asking you to do, because we understand the hardship.
Yeah.
So I don't know who you have on your team to help you with this. If you have a professional on your team, they've heard what we're saying. If you have an architect on your team and you want to get an architect, I think you need to really spend the next 3 weeks, whatever it takes, focus on all these things and give it your best shot. But it has to be a bold move. I mean, you just can't just tweak a few things and come back. I think a few good hours of some really, really incredible design exercises, you can turn this project around. And you don't have to change the footprint, you don't have to change the height, you don't have to change the structure.
Can I ask you a question also? As far as the windows, guys, we don't like those windows. We didn't want those windows, but we were pretty much forced into choosing the windows. And windows are one of the biggest part of that look. We were looking more of a French-type grid windows to make it a kind of a nice, kind of French country look. But we got stuck with these windows, so right there it kind of kills the whole front facade, So
maybe I missed
if we can do it, we will rather do it that way anyway, to begin with. That was our first choice to begin with, But we kind of got pushed into that kind of look because original house had that kind of windows.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
And I know, Mr. Aliano, there was still some stuff you wanted to say, and
It's okay.
what I wanted to reiterate was you got to start off with a style, Okay, you start off with a style, and that's what a good architect does, is picks a style, and then your details match the style.
Yes.
And once the details match the style, it becomes very pleasant to look at, and it's very easy for us to approve it. But once there's no base to it, once there's no soul to it, once there's no reasoning for it, and it's something you're not even happy with, and it's not something the city's happy with, no one wins. And so if you're looking for more of the French look, well, then you might have to go down a more traditional, rustic design, which is fine. You could do that. You don't need to stick with the ranch, per se. It's preferred in that area. However, if you do a very nice rustic, let's say French or a rustic Tudor or whatnot, and a design, and the architect, I should just reiterate, architect, not design, architect does a good job on it, you could very easily win this board over. And so if you just walk away from this and saying, okay, I'm going to change the colors, I'm going to change the windows, and we're going to be fine, you're not. You're going to come back and you're going to lose more time and more money. So we're being really upfront with you. And we usually don't have this kind of interaction because it's just not the way we're set up. But we feel your pain and we feel where you're coming from, so we're spending the time and doing something extraordinary and just being really upfront with you. That you need to basically get an architect that understands style, design, details, and will do a wonderful job for you. And not a long time. I mean, I'm saying somebody in a few hours, literally, in a few hours could come up with a scheme for you, an idea, and then go away for a month and come back and say, here you go. Literally. Because the plan is worked out. All they got to do is work on the elevations. And that was the first thing I said to her. I said, the plan is fine. We're not making you rearrange it. We understand. We're not even, that's out of the formula, that this is it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Did you fill out a card? Do you have a
No,
card?
this is actually the designer, so...
Okay, why don't you go ahead and state your name and address for the record?
My name is Ricardo Martinez, and I'm a designer. And I have 10 years of experience.
Address, please. Just your address. Address.
Address
Yeah,
825 North, Buena Vista, Burbank, California.
Thank you.
I have 10 years of experience. I got my bachelor's degree in architecture, and I'm going through the test right now for the exam, my 7th test that I have to take.
Long process.
Long process. And to be sincere with this design, we were driven into this design because someone in the planning department, I guess she was enamored with the ranch-style homes. And in order to make the process faster, we decided, well, if we do this, because they were already trying to build the house as soon as possible, do the remodeling as soon as possible. If we do this, we follow the ranch-style home, which is very simple, no details, low profile. The roofs they have no hierarchy, and the ranch-style homes are like that in its characteristics of its architecture. And we try to limit the details. We try not to put too many details, and that way we can actually, well, the idea was that we can actually move forward. And unfortunately, when we submitted the plans to the building department accepted the plans. But when they came back with the corrections, they said that we needed a soils report. So we went ahead and then we did a soils report. At this moment, we already had the planning approval. The building department had already taken the plans in, and they made corrections, and they asked for a soils report. So we went ahead and we did a soils report, and we're glad we did it because there were some issues that we had to do some piles and all the stuff. So now we go back again with the same design. We put it back in the building department with the soils report, with the update of the structural engineering done. And now the building department says that, no, wait a minute, we just figured this out. This is a new house. Okay, so now we're going to kick you back again, and now this time there's no exception to the DRB. So you guys need to go back to the DRB. So in order to, again, because they're having their house demolished because they thought that they didn't need any permits to demolish a house. They went ahead and did it, and then that's when the building department say, wait a minute, now there is no house, right? So now you guys need to go and design something new, right? So now what we did is the plans that we had already, we presented those plans, and those plans already had the blessing from the planning department. They were already approved many times by the planning department, and they didn't find any issues that we're discussing right now because we were at it was just taken as a remodel. But now, since it's a new house, obviously you guys are thinking, well, this is a missed opportunity, right? Now we can take the opportunity and bring some nice architecture into this area, make it look as beautiful as we can. Unfortunately, we follow those rules from the beginning. We stuck with the ranch style, and that's where we are. And now it's like going back, like he said, spending more money here, spending more money there. And I personally think that your comments were correctly addressed. The issues were correctly addressed, and I'm not really against that. And the comments that Mr. Aliano did about the wood siding, about the maybe the roof fascia to be bigger, or some comments about the window sizes to give characteristics to the spaces inside. Those were very intelligent comments, and we can address those comments and we can make it happen. And that's the idea. But when we already had the blessings from the planning department, why are we going to change the style? Why, when these plans have been already approved by them, why would we change it? Why? There is no reason to do it. So we wanted the project to continue.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the designer?
No, I think you heard us, and I think you know what you have to do. I don't think what we're asking you to do is totally impossible.
No.
So I know you had some history. I know there's a lot of hardships. There's a lot of things that have happened that shouldn't have happened. But you are here now, and I think you need to move forward. And I think if you do what we're asking you to do, I don't see why you should have any trouble.
And the owner has been very cooperative. He has followed everything that the city of Glendale has told him to do, from the design.
What was your understanding of the
department.
50% rule?
Well, yeah, because the roof has to be removed, right? The whole roof had to be removed, and now since the demolition is already done, so we need to follow, what the code says.
But were you aware of the 50% rule before?
Well, no, never. We submitted the plans to the building department. We presented to the planning department 3 times. They were approved 3 times, right on the spot, right on the counter. So in reality, until they show you and they tell you, look, you cannot go forward because of this code, or because of this, that it says by the district attorney,
So is this your first project in Glendale?
Yeah, I've done some. Actually, I did some units in Sonora and Glen Oaks, and I've done work with you guys. I know a lot of the designers that come over here, and the architects, landscapers that come over.
Well, now you know the 50%.
But I haven't seen you here for, I haven't been here for a couple of years already.
Okay.
So
I think if we have any other questions for the
I have a
designer.
very quick one.
Go ahead.
If the client chooses to go down the ranch style, which is very conducive to that area, it's the right style for it, there's some wonderful books of ranch-style homes. You could just go to Hennessy and Ingalls in Santa Monica, pick up a book on ranch-style architecture. It's a beautiful style. You'll go through a lot of pictures, and it'll be fun. You could pick details that you like, and he could put it in there. But be true to the style and understand what ranch is. And so buy a book of ranch architecture, and because even there's just great examples of different versions of ranch, on that street. I mean, here we have some flying roofs and just pronounced entrances, and this was probably done in the 60s,
Right.
50 years ago.
Yes.
And it's right there on the street, and you could take cues from this, and you can make something really wonderful. And you could say, hey, it's right down the street,
And just to clarify, I mean, the staff person that you worked with, I don't know who that is or what happened there, but I don't think it's just that they fell in love with the ranch style. They wanted you to make sure that you had a ranch style house. I think it was sort of it's the predominant style in that area, and so that's sort of a first start in getting you going in that. And so it's up to you as a designer to take that and make it what it is. It's not up to them to design it for you. So,
Of course.
so just to say
I
that,
understand.
it's because of them that I went ranch, that's not an excuse. So I want you to be clear in that.
It wasn't really an excuse. It was just a remodel. And that's what
Yeah,
we
but
wanna-
remodeling, you could do a lot of things, and so it's not just what's the easiest way out is not the answer all the time. So I want to put the burden back on you and make it right and make it
Of
so
course.
they have a home that they can go into. So
Yes.
okay,
And I wanted to see...
I'm sorry, your time is up. Is there?
my time is up?
Make it quick then.
Okay, just wanted to see if we can make a conclusion on maybe like the roof line is fine with you guys, and try to see if we can,
Actually, that's a good point. Are you okay with the new roofs that we propose?
yeah, that's fine.
Because your old roof didn't work. So
Well, we can put a cricket and...
no crickets on a new
2%
roof. You don't
slope,
want to put no crickets in the roof.
There are ways to fix that, but...
No.
Yeah, I'd rather have those...
Okay.
that type
You're gonna have to
of-
go back to engineering anyway to get
Yeah.
that done. So
We'll do that. Don't worry about it.
okay.
All right.
Mr.
Thank
Yu,
you.
Thank you.
there was actually two alternative roof
I
proposals.
think either one we're okay with. It's
Okay.
Yeah, but I think we should when we talk about the and the conditions that we put. I think one of the things is they need to do something about the entrance and make it a nicer or more distinct
Pronounced.
area. Yeah, for the entry space. But I think we've said a lot, and so
Yeah, I mean, this requires some,
Yeah.
rolling up your sleeves and rethinking the design and come up with something outstanding. Without changing the substance of the structure, you can do a lot with it. You don't have to move walls around. You can just do it with some good sketch paper and tracing paper and just sketch for 20 hours.
okay, come on up.
And you're going to have to fill out one of the speaker cards and your name.
Go one up and put
Your
it
name,
after.
and your address for the record.
My name is Agnes Asadorian, and 1564 Sheridan Road. I truly appreciate everybody's time here. I apologize. This has been a nightmare for us, and I appreciate that you understand what we have been gone through. We're having two younger kids, and I hate that design, to be honest. It's ugly. And I just want to make a understanding here. First of all, will you be here when we come back next time? Will you, the same people be here?
Make it quick.
Okay. And then another thing, I just want the architect to understand, to make sure that you are saying change the windows, the static, make it look nicer. That's where we are, right? Just to the static of the building needs to be changed.
Because the window looks like an
Other
office
than that,
building.
the planning and the layout of the house, you have no problem with. It's just the
As long as you
static.
can make the exterior look good.
Okay. To make it look good, and then how long? My question is, how long would this take us to come
to
back
him.
in front of you again?
Well, it depends on when you can provide the information, because unfortunately, when it's a return for redesign, it's a brand-new
It's a
application.
new, yeah.
So
Are we
unfortunately,
talking about months again?
well, it depends, again, how long you're able to work with your design team to provide an updated...
Once it's submitted, typically, how long does it take to...
Once it's submitted, it should hopefully be as quick as possible. We'll try to get it in as long as it's within 90 days. We do not have to mail out a mailing list and labels, so if it's within 90 days, then, hopefully we can get it on board within maybe 6 weeks.
So if you get it in to us within 90 days, they'll try to get it over here within 6 weeks.
Okay. Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for. Go ahead.
Before someone makes a motion, I just want to clarify. I know that there's been much discussion, and I don't know if the board would like to leave it somewhat open-ended in terms of just saying upgrade the exterior elevations, focusing on the style, design, and details of the surfaces and fenestrations, sort of leave it open-ended so that they're allowed to go ahead and take a look at the different type of styles, perhaps? Or do you want to be much more specific? Because I even heard comments such as provide wider roof, consider providing wider roof eaves, thicker fascia boards. I mean, to what extent does the board want your comments put down in the record of decision?
I think it makes sense to be as specific as we can almost, because I think the homeowners are looking to us a little bit after going through this to tell the designer what we were looking for.
Right.
Because, I mean, and I know we don't want to do that, but I think in this case, that's what they're kind of asking us to do. I mean, I think that's what her last speech was at the end, kind of saying, tell me what I need to tell this guys to make it work, but...
But if you do have a style,
that I
that
wanna do-
style will dictate those details.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if, I mean, this is what we got in...
Then they need to make that decision, right, of who that person is that's going to take them forward. One thing I think that we should state that I would urge the board to consider is that the overall layout, orientation, and floor plan works, and we're not asking that to be changed. If that could be put on the record, and
We'll put
I
that
could
down as
support
well.
that we're only talking about an much greater level of detail to the facade, taking into consideration the chosen style.
Correct. I think that's
Yeah,
fine
that's
with
true,
me.
because he did say that he might change styles, and so...
He might want to.
Yeah.
With the interest of being a little more precise, some of the things I did hear, at least most of the board members mentioned specifically the columns, the eaves, the detailing around the windows as well as the windows themselves. At least a few of the board members also talked about the characteristic of the siding. I think there was also the water heater, which is a little bit different than the sort of fenestration details. But given that there may be a change in the stylistic direction of the house or some kind of shifts from where it is today, perhaps we should simply say these are the areas that the board is specifically would like to see details in.
Let's just say these things are the things that you focus on no matter what style you go with. Those are the areas where they would sort of...
And add the entry to that.
An entry,
Yes,
yeah,
the
provide a more
entry.
distinctive front
I
entryway.
think that's good. I mean, it can be general.
It's a good idea.
That way they know what they need to focus on. And depending on the style they pick, they might pick a different kind of eave, or, they might pick a different kind of window. But the focus should be on those elements, So do we need to enumerate them? I think,
Well, depending on the chosen style, the project should come back with greater, with a focus on the columns, the eaves, the eaves, detailing around the windows themselves, the surface treatments. I'm just going to
Materials.
There's also a comment about the color scheme
right.
Correct.
and the front entrance.
Separate one. And any comment about the garage door or no?
That should match the style.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But and the windows, too. I mean, the quality of the windows is very
And the-
important.
Yes, detail around the windows and the windows themselves.
The actual materials.
I'll put down material and
I
quote.
think it's consistent for us to ask for a better quality window, I think.
Right. And I think it would be good to actually have a detail of the window section, a section through the window, a sill and a head and a jamb. So we know how that's one of the most important elements in a design of an elevation. So
Provide window detail sections.
I know we've said that they don't have to change the footprint of the house, but if they chose to do so, and it's been brought up that maybe the entry and some of the interior floor plan, be more than happy to go ahead and change that if you, take their comments, and it might come up with a better entry in some of the floor plan.
That's a good point.
So we're not tying them.
Of course. No, they're not tied.
Well, just
But you're
wanna clarify.
basically you're accepting what's being
Right.
provided.
Right, but
We
it
understand.
could, might look into it further.
All right, with that said, I would assume that there's a motion to return for redesign.
I'll make that motion.
I can second that.
A motion made by Board Member Palmer, a second by Board Member Aliano. In terms of a roll call, Board Member Aliano,
Yes.
Board Member Palmer,
Yes.
Board Member Simonian,
Yes.
Chairperson Yu.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Right.
Okay.
Could you fill one
We have minutes.
Yes, and we do have 2 minutes that would need approval. One would be minutes from June the 11th. This was
I was there.
actually
I
Board
wasn't
Member
here,
Aliano and Simonian were both absent. Board Member Palmer was not present. She was not on the board at that point in time. So Board Member Yu, unfortunately, we're going to have to postpone this until Board Member Insua returns. How's that?
But
And
it's almost impossible to get a quorum, right?
and
I'll vote twice.
we'll hopefully the next
That's the
meeting we'll
gavel
have
for
Board
the
Member
votes.
Yu and
Right.
Insua.
Hello.
Next would be no. This one is possible because the meetings from minutes from the meeting of June the 25th. Board Member Aliano, you were.
Aye.
You were not present, but Board Member Simonian and Board Chairperson you were both present. You two were present. So, with that
There we
said, there
go,
was
right?
there was one item on the agenda that evening, one for Rima Vista. So,
So how do we do this?
You want to pass the gavel?
I'll pass the gavel.
I guess I could.
You can make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for June, whatever it was,
I
June
second.
25th.
25th.
I second.
Okay, and a second by Board Member Yu. I take it that both of you are in favor of passing.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you. There are no other staff announcements. Would anyone care to make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:35?
I make that motion.
Second.
Thank you.
We don't need a second.
Time for dinner, huh?